Chapter 3219. A Battle of the Pinnacle. Whether it was Lin Feng or Murderous Rage, they both revealed their trump cards and used their best moves. Murderous Rage's killing intent doppelganger was needless to say. The stronger the killing intent, the better the control of the materialized will, and the more powerful soul ignition, the more terrifying the killing intent doppelganger was. To a certain extent, it was even better than the main body. The killing intent doppelganger was extremely terrifying in terms of speed and attack speed, and the most terrifying thing was chi. The battle blade, Snow Jewel, split the killing intent doppelganger, but the latter did not seem to feel any pain. The dagger directly slashed Lin Feng's neck, killing him instantly. This was the killing intent doppelganger, formed by pure killing intent and materialized will. But soul ignition gave it a unique will. A true immortal body. Great annihilation. Lin Feng did not panic. Although Murderous Rage's killing intent doppelganger surprised him, the Mountain Core World incarnation protected Lin Feng very well. The golden engravings flashed, and with himself as the center, the Hongmeng Law of innate level 7 Great Annihilation instantly erupted. Boom! The terrifying annihilation shattered the killing intent doppelganger. This was also the weakness of the killing intent doppelganger. Its defense was not strong, and it was replaced by fierce attacks, using tyrannical and endless attacks to replace the weak defense. Brutal. Soul ignition was the 4th level. The killing intent doppelganger was destroyed, but Murderous Rage did not quickly reassemble. The 5th level consumed far more soul power than the 4th level, and he had just formed the killing intent doppelganger, so his killing intent was not strong enough at this stage. Murderous Rage chose to use his main body for close combat, and the bloodthirsty dagger became even crazier. Unlike the other 9 Hell's Kings who used the 3rd level, entering the underworld, Murderous Rage used the 2nd level golden body. There was no dark light, but an extreme golden light. Defense and speed increased. Murderous Rage's defense was not strong, but his speed was one of the best. The 2nd level, golden body, was more compatible with him. While making up for his weakness, he had also improved the one thing he was best at. His ghostly figure was now faster than the killing intent doppelganger, and it was not only in terms of sprinting and attacking speed, but also in terms of dodging and movement. For a moment, countless Murderous Rage and countless bloodthirsty daggers appeared around Lin Feng. Roar! The mythological beast, Ning Qiong in the void, was awe-inspiring. It had already activated the full power of the Battle Saber Snow Jade. Now, of Lin Feng's 3 primordial origin artifacts, only the 100 million wheels 8 front formation had yet to reach perfection. The Battle Saber Snow Jade and the Mountain Core World incarnation were already able to unleash their full power. At the 3rd stage, Lin Feng obtained the acknowledgement of the Warblade Snow Jade. After awakening the artifact spirit, Lin Feng transformed into his primordial dimensional body and wandered around the dimensional space until his primordial dimensional body was saturated. His strength increased step by step, and the Warblade Snow Jade had long since recognized him as its master. This was because the current Lin Feng was very powerful. Soul. The tempering in the dimensional space, especially the final observation and comprehension of the construction of the dimensional passageway, had allowed Lin Feng's control over his will to reach an extraordinary level. Even when compared to Dao Wuji, he wasn't too far off. Lin Feng was almost able to construct dimensional channels. Such control over Spirit Jewel was extraordinary. Over here, no matter how fast the Murderous Rage was, it could not be faster than the speed of the Murderous Rage. Lin Feng's counterattack was slightly slower, but its strength was far greater. Snow Jewel was covered in Hongmeng Viral. Not to mention the strength of the 4th stage, just the amount of Hongmeng Viral was much greater than that of the 3rd stage. Its strength increased explosively. Boom, boom, boom. Although Lin Feng was on the defensive, he was as steady as a rock. His murderous aura soared, and he did not gain any advantage. No matter which blind spot he attacked from, Lin Feng would block it in an instant. Although the murderous rage was brutal, it could not make up for the disadvantage in strength. Without break, murderous rage could not do anything to Lin Feng. He and Blade Light Shadow were two completely different types. He was famous for his speed. His murderous aura was like that of an assassin whose speed and attack speed had reached the max. His other aspects were inferior, including the technique and realm of his natal weapon. Although his moves and styles were at the legendary level, even reaching the threshold of Source, he had not truly reached the level of Source. In this aspect, he could not compare to the other kings of Nine Hells. But Lin Feng could not counterattack. His speed was suppressed, and the Mountain Core's world avatar had just been exhausted. Lin Feng could not do anything to murderous rage. The situation was a bit tense, and it was hard to tell who had the upper hand. However, the experts from the Great Change Origin did not see it that way. They were all shocked by Lin Feng's strength. That was murderous rage. He was one of the kings of Nine Hells. Even Chaos Downlords could not deal with murderous rage, let alone Thousand Blood Empress. Even the Thousand Blood Empress was at a disadvantage when fighting against him, but Lin Feng was actually able to fight evenly with him. What did this mean? Lin Feng was stronger than Thousand Blood Empress. The two sides exchanged blows and were in a stalemate for hundreds of rounds. Murderous Rage was not going easy. He even used his Murderous Rage clone, but he could not do anything to Lin Feng. It was obvious that Lin Feng had real strength. What kind of monster did the Tai Chu produce? Oh no, Murderous Rage is overflowing. It's coming again. His Murderous Rage clone is very scary. Thousand Blood Empress was injured by his Murderous Rage clone before and had to rest for a while. Lin Feng has already lost a Hong Meng's source item. I don't know how he is going to block it this time. The experts from the Great Change Origin were indeed very sharp. They had fought with the Netherkill clan for more than 100 eras in the First Dimension Passage, so they knew the opponent's ultimate moves very well. Every time Murderous Rage gathered, it was time to explode. Whoosh! Endless murderous intent condensed, and the soul flame burned fiercely. The murderous intent and the underworld power blended together, and the murderous intent clone condensed once again. The blood-red dagger hissed like a poisonous snake, attacking Lin Feng with extreme speed. This attack condensed the Murderous Rage clone's enormous power and exploded instantly. Under the nervous gazes of the Great Change Origin experts, Lin Feng, who had been on the defensive and did not have his Mountain Core World incarnation, seemed to have sublimated in an instant in the most critical situation. His mental cultivation level rose to a new level in an instant. After wandering in the dimensional space for nearly 20 years, Lin Feng's mental state had been purified and improved. At this moment, all the profundities of the Ni** Defying Heart Sutra had been thoroughly comprehended and perfectly fused with the will of manifestation. This caused Lin Feng's golden will to be as firm as a mountain, and his primordial dimensional body instantly erupted with power. The Defying Heart Sutra had reached perfection. Tai Chi legend. Lin Feng met the Murderous Rage clone head-on. His aura reversed and completely suppressed the Murderous Rage clone. Even his realm was not inferior. At this moment, he was invincible. Chapter 3220. Only a battle of the same level could force out one's greatest potential. After transforming his Hongmeng dimensional body and cultivating in the dimensional space for almost 20 years, Lin Feng had already achieved success in all aspects. Both his strength and realm had reached an extreme point, the peak that a Yuan Venerate could reach. In fact, Lin Feng himself was almost unable to hold back the perfect formation of his internal universe and was about to break through. However, with a strong enough willpower and Hongmeng virile, Lin Feng wouldn't lose control. It had been a long time since Lin Feng had mastered the Defying Heart secret technique. During this period of time, Lin Feng's level of comprehension and mental cultivation had increased tremendously. This was especially so during the period when he was in the fourth dimension. Dao Wu Ji's earnest teachings, as well as the 20 eras of wandering in the dimensional space. Great perfection stage was achieved naturally. This was a very powerful mental cultivation secret technique. At the great perfection stage, one's physique would be strengthened by 10 times. At the great perfection stage, it would be strengthened by 100 times. Of course, given Lin Feng's current Hongmeng dimensional body, strengthening it by 100 times was impossible. However, it was still much stronger than before. Originally, his physique was comparable to a world lord. Now, Lin Feng's physique was close to that of the strongest world lord. It was almost comparable to that of a primal chaos Tao lord. It was completely beyond murderous aura. In terms of realm, it wasn't inferior at all. Boom! Snow Jewel was at full power, and it overshadowed the murderous dagger. It landed fiercely on Happy's body, which was covered in golden light. Even though he reacted quickly with murderous intent, his left shoulder was already drenched in blood. With a groan, murderous aura was instantly sent flying by Lin Feng. His expression was extremely ugly. Ah! He roared hysterically. As the Nine Hells monarch, murderous aura had never suffered such a serious injury. Furthermore, it was during the battle with the Hongmeng Sea. He rarely bled, let alone now that his left arm was broken. Although it could be recovered, it was related to the dignity of the Netherkill race. How could he tolerate this any longer? Boom! 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 The entire dimensional passageway shook violently as killing intent surged out. The warped W mark on Lin Feng's forehead flashed brilliantly before its golden radiance completely enveloped the killing intent. Lin Feng could clearly feel the frightening aura of the killing intent surging out, as though a flame was burning fiercely within his heart. What a terrifying aura! That flame seemed to want to burn his soul to ashes. The golden W mark shone with a strange light. It was as if a seal had been lifted on the power contained within his body. Although Lin Feng had never seen it before, he knew exactly what was going to happen. Break Extreme, the Netherkiller clan's strongest talent. The 6th level of Soul Ignition was enough to raise a Nine Hells King's battle prowess to a whole new level. It was much more powerful than Soul Flame. This was the pride and strength of the Netherkill clan. Once they used Break Extreme, they would be invincible. Come! At this time, Lin Feng's fighting spirit had reached its peak. When he performed the Defying Heart's secret technique at the consummate level, he faintly felt that this secret technique was special and contained profound mysteries. Only when he reached the consummate level did he faintly reveal some of these mysteries. His saber techniques were even purer and more natural. The Battle Saber Snow Jewel also felt the same as Lin Feng's fighting spirit. It fully unleashed the power of its artifact spirit and gathered the strongest Hongmeng virile. Scared? There was no such word in Lin Feng's dictionary. Fight to the end. Lin Feng had been looking forward to the Netherkiller clan's Break Extreme for a long time. Chi, slurp. Under the cover of the vigorous golden light, his soul burned crazily. Murderous intent surged. A new left arm grew out from his originally bloody left arm in an instant. The power of Break Extreme was completely contained in it. Golden light gathered in every part of his body. Crack, crack, crack. His muscles, bones, cells, and skin changed drastically. Murderous intent surged like that of a demon. His ferocious face seemed to be bearing extreme pain. However, he was more furious at this time. His murderous intent and anger intertwined, causing the dimensional passage to faintly collapse. In the first dimensional passage, Virile had already reached its limit. If it increased gradually, it would not be a big deal. However, Break Extreme was the strongest profound intent of the Netherkiller clan. The instantaneous eruption of power was extremely terrifying. Even if he constantly strengthened himself and used all his strength to maintain the dimensional passage, the passage might not be able to withstand the eruption of Break Extreme. Die! Go and die! Golden light bloomed crazily. His murderous soul burned terrifyingly. His strength increased like a staircase. In the blink of an eye, it was more than 10 times stronger than before. However, at this time, A sword light streaked across like a shooting star, instantly landing in front of the murderous soul. A pair of calm and wise eyes stared at the murderous soul. Although he was not as tall as the murderous soul, he had an unshakable strength. Just like that, he stood between Lin Feng and the murderous soul. His entire back was even exposed to Lin Feng's battle blade Snow Jade. However, he did not care. The strongest Hell King, unceasing improvement. Go back. Unceasing improvement frowned and said, Scram. The murderous soul could not hide his endless anger. Golden light uncontrollably spread out. Go back, do you hear me? Unceasing improvement's voice instantly turned cold. It was as cold as the polar regions of the dimensions. The terrifying temperature seemed to be able to freeze the murderous soul. His eyes gradually turned cold and still. The sword light in his hand shone brightly. Sharp sword chi shot out from his intrinsic weapon, as though it was accumulating power and waiting to strike. Killing intent surged as soon as he said a word of disagreement. The W between his eyebrows faintly moved. Unceasing improvement's soul flames seemed to be burning. Whoosh! The surrounding atmosphere instantly turned icy cold, with even the dimensional passageway freezing up in an instant. Just a moment ago, the murderous aura that was surging towards the heavens trembled slightly, while the malevolent expression on his face suddenly froze up before his widened eyes gradually narrowed. The originally majestic golden light dimmed a little in an instant. The dimensional passage that was about to collapse seemed to stop shaking. The manifested will gradually stabilized. I'm sorry. The murderous soul did not dare to look into Unceasing Improvement's eyes. Let's go. Unceasing Improvement's voice sounded coldly. Without any superfluous words, he instantly led the group of Netherkill experts to retreat. Neither the Chaos Tao Lord nor the Thousand Blood Empress pursued. He was truly powerful. He had hegemony and power that controlled everything. After fighting for more than 100 eras, the Grand Change Origin Chaotic Universe clearly knew how terrifying Unceasing Improvement strength was. If not for the fact that the Chaos Tao Lord had destroyed the dimensional passage in a life-and-death struggle, he would have occupied the dimensional passage alone. When Unceasing Improvement was serious, no one was his opponent. The Chaos Tao Lord could not do it. The Thousand Blood Empress could not do it either. In the entire Hongmeng Sea, perhaps only the one in the Grand Beginning Origin Chaotic Universe could compete with him. Next time, I will come and challenge you. Lin Feng's voice rang out in the silence, sounding exceptionally clear. At this time, the Netherkill experts had gradually left. Unceasing Improvement's back view was like a proud swordsman. It was deeply imprinted in the hearts of every expert in the Grand Change Origin Chaotic Universe. He was like an emperor. I'll wait for you. In the depths of the dimensional passage, a cold voice suddenly sounded. It did not dissipate for a long time. Chapter 32:21. The Netherkiller race left as quickly as they came. Only the powerhouses from the Great Change, Origin, and the Chaotic Universe were left in the dimensional passage, as well as Lin Feng. All sorts of gazes fell on Lin Feng. There were curiosity, admiration, envy, and all sorts of other emotions. If this battle was just hearsay, perhaps everyone would be skeptical and even laugh it off. However, they had witnessed this battle with their own eyes. They had witnessed Lin Feng's appearance. He had first killed the Netherkiller race marshal, then the Netherkiller race hell master, and then fought a fierce battle with a 9 Hells monarch. Even a murderous Netherkiller race monarch had one of his arms chopped off and unleashed Breaking Extremity in anger. This was Breaking Extremity, the peak power of the Netherkiller race, their strongest talent. After fighting with the Netherkiller race for more than 100 eras, this was the first time they had seen the 9 Hells monarch use Breaking Extremity. It was terrifying. However, what was even more terrifying was Lin Feng's unfathomable strength. He was only a Yuan Venerate, yet he already possessed such terrifying strength. What would happen if he became an almighty? In this battle, Lin Feng had single-handedly destroyed the Netherkiller race's entire line of defense. One man and one blade. Wait a minute. Speaking of which, where had Lin Feng come from? We finally meet young friend Lin Feng. Chaos Tao Lord was standing on the seven-colored primal chaos ship. He was the leader of the 5 great realms. His body was filled with a dense primal chaos aura, and there were many wrinkles and golden scales on his neck. His body was similar to a human's, and there were 3 sharp horns on his forehead. Greetings, Chaos Tao Lord. Lin Feng bowed respectfully. He had heard a lot about Chaos Tao Lord. Fairy Ling Dai had invited him when they had left the 4th dimension passage, but Lin Feng had declined. After 20 eras, they had finally met. Chaos Tao Lord did not act high and mighty just because he was the strongest world lord. Instead, he was very approachable. Indeed, seeing is believing. Chaos Tao Lord chuckled. Fan Zhu is really good at keeping secrets. The Taichu has an additional world lord, yet he did not say anything. Everyone was in an uproar. These words meant that even the Chaos Tao Lord admitted that Lin Feng's strength had indeed reached the level of a world lord. Of course, the Great Change experts had already accepted Lin Feng's heaven-defying strength. Yuan venerates were comparable to world lords. If it was before, it would have been hard to believe. Senior, you flatter me. Lin Feng replied modestly. Now that this battle has ended, this junior still has to make a trip back to the 3rd-dimensional passageway. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave first. All right. Tao Monarch Primal Chaos smiled and did not force him to stay. On the other side, the Great Change cultivators led by the 1,000 Blood Empress looked at Lin Feng and sighed in their hearts. Everyone in the Hongmeng Sea wanted to spend more time with Chaos Tao Lord. He was the leader of the 5 great Hongmeng Sea world lords. He was famous in the Hongmeng Sea for his treasures and cultivation methods. If he received guidance or a treasure from a Chaos Tao Lord, it would be like a fish leaping through the Dragon Gate. He would benefit greatly. But Lin Feng didn't care at all. He nodded to the experts and left. If it had been the 4th-dimensional passageway, Lin Feng would have wanted to meet Chaos Tao Lord and receive his guidance. It would have been better than Dao Wuji. However, after breaking through the Hongmeng dimensional body and wandering in the dimensional space for 20 years, Lin Feng no longer needed it. Now, he had reached perfection in all aspects. Even if he hadn't reached the Great Circle, he was close and had no shackles. Lin Feng knew very well what to do next. There was a broad path ahead. After today's battle, Lin Feng became even more confident and full of confidence. Even if his opponent was the strongest combat race, the Nether Killer race, Lin Feng was confident that he could face them head-on. He might not be a match for them now, but he would appear again soon in a new and stronger form. He wasn't afraid of anyone. After exiting the 1st-dimensional passageway, Lin Feng returned to the Hongmeng's Twin Towers region. It felt like a lifetime had passed. After wandering in the dimensional space for 20 years, returning to the Hongmeng Sea made him feel much more at home. To Lin Feng, the rich Hongmeng energy around him was like little elves that he could clearly sense. The current Lin Feng's strength was at a much higher level than the Grand Mist energy. After he transformed into the primordial dimensional body, Lin Feng faintly felt as if he'd arrived at the limits of the primordial ocean's energy. As he stood within the boundless area of the primordial Twin Poles Pagoda, he had a myriad of mixed feelings while various feelings surged into his heart. In the past, he was so insignificant in this region. All kinds of power were above him. However, Lin Feng no longer felt anything pressing down on him. Even the level 9 primordial laws that he was circulating were only on the same level as him. In fact, they were even slightly avoiding him. Hongmeng dimensional body. Even though Lin Feng's Hongmeng virile only contained a trace of virile, it was still a top-notch power. No matter how strong the 9th level Hongmeng laws were, they were only the strongest power in a dimensional world. However, Lin Feng looked at the center of the Hongmeng's Twin Towers region. The majestic Hongmeng Twin Towers that no cultivator could approach were still somewhat unfathomable. It contained a great secret. Oh, Lin Feng was rather curious. It seemed that the Hongmeng Twin Towers and the Hongmeng Sea weren't a single entity. It was said that the two were born at the same time, but their forms of energy were somewhat different. No, they were very different. Strictly speaking, The energy level of the Hongmeng Twin Towers was one level higher than the Hongmeng Sea. Thus, until now, no cultivator in the Hongmeng Sea had truly gotten close to the Hongmeng Twin Towers. Even the five world lords hadn't been able to do so. It was just that no one knew if that invincible existence, Genesis Supreme, could get close to the Hongmeng Twin Towers. Similarly, in the Hongmeng world, no cultivator had reached the top of the Hongmeng Twin Towers, nor had any cultivator defeated all 108 generals in the investiture of the gods. The Hongmeng Twin Towers were mysterious and powerful. One day, I will decipher its secrets. Lin Feng naturally wasn't afraid of the Hongmeng Twin Towers. Even his Hongmeng Virile was eager to test it out. The stronger the opponent, the more Lin Feng wanted to challenge it. Oh, let's find the location of the third-dimensional passageway first. After exiting the first-dimensional passageway, Lin Feng was still in a daze. He had been in the dimensional space for a long time and had just returned to the Twin Towers of Hongmeng, so he could not tell the direction. However, it did not matter. He could instantiate his will and instantly spread it out, allowing him to sense his surroundings. How could the perception of aura compare to the perception of will? Furthermore, Lin Feng's current cultivation in the manifestation of will was comparable to Dao Wuji's. He could even build a dimensional channel. Hua, manifesting his will, an invisible force passed through Hongmeng's energy and covered the entire area of Hongmeng's Twin Towers, expanding continuously. A little, before he could sense the passageway in the third dimension, Lin Feng suddenly sensed an incomparably huge existence. A transcendent power was suppressing him, and it was constantly magnified by the will of manifestation. In an instant, Lin Feng's heartbeat quickened, and his eyes sparkled. At this moment, Lin Feng could only sense that majestic existence. He could not sense anything else, and his heartbeat became even more intense. Touch. Deep throbbing. Hongmeng's Twin Towers. Chapter 32-22. Resonance. It originated from that trace of virile that even he couldn't detect. In his senses, there seemed to be some core power in Hongmeng's dual pole tower that resonated with virile. It was a rather huge existence. It was much bigger than his trace of virile. It was like sand on a beach or water droplets in a river. Although it was huge, they were of the same type and could resonate with each other. Lin Feng was sure that the core of Hongmeng's dual pole tower was inextricably linked to virile. It must be virile. While Lin Feng put away the will that had been manifested, his eyes flashed, and he let out a sigh of relief. He wasn't hurt. Even though the trace of virile in his body resonated with the core of Hongmeng's dual pole tower, the dual pole tower of Hongmeng didn't have any evil intentions. It was like virile in the dimensional space, a huge power without an owner. When the consciousness came into contact with it, it would naturally be suppressed. However, as long as it left, it would return to normal. Lin Feng's control over his materialized will had already reached an extremely high level. He was able to control it freely. Furthermore, when he retracted his materialized will spread to the other half of the primordial dual polarity pagoda. He could sense almost half of the area. In this half of the area, Lin Feng sensed the location of the third dimension passageway and an unexpected aura. Second brother? Lin Feng was rather surprised. His body suddenly changed, and he sped up. Even though the consciousness pressure in Hongmeng's dual pole tower was extremely strong, that was only for ordinary universe rulers. To Lin Feng, it wasn't worth mentioning at all. He quickly passed through half of the area and found his second brother. Dual pole tower sector. Hongmeng's dual pole tower sector was the best place to train one's willpower. 100,000 miles, who was tempering his will, felt a chill run down his spine. He hastily turned around. At this moment, the aura entered his mind. It was incomparably familiar. When Big Brother Lin Feng's figure appeared in front of him, 100,000 miles was overjoyed. Second brother. Lin Feng smiled. Haha, Big Brother, you're finally willing to come back. Sherwanli stepped forward and gave him a hug. Needless to say, one could feel the sincerity between the two brothers. The word willing perfectly described Sherwanli's attitude. Even though his big brother, Lin Feng, had mysteriously disappeared in the 20th era, Li wasn't worried at all. He was the only one who knew all of his big brother, Lin Feng's secrets, and knew that his big brother, Lin Feng, could survive in the dimensional space. Missing? In Li's opinion, Big Brother must have gone somewhere to cultivate. I accidentally got lost and just came back. Lin Feng laughed. Oh yes, what happened when I wasn't around? Where did when Xian Holy Man go? Did he fall? Lost. Li was slightly taken aback. When Xian Holy Man disappeared with you and has not appeared since. I have no idea where he went, but according to the Daoyin Palace Master, when Xian Holy Man is still alive. Oh, Lin Feng was slightly surprised. When Xian Holy Man disappeared, but he didn't fall. This was a lot of information because when Xian Holy Man couldn't have wandered in the dimensional space for 20 years like him. In other words, something happened to him? Li nodded. Everyone suspects that Pope did something, but there is no evidence. Pope? Lin Feng was deep in thought. If that was the case, everything made sense. To deal with when Xian Holy Man, he blocked the connection with his materialized will. However, doing so seemed to be inappropriate and didn't seem like something at Pope's level. Lin Feng shook his head. Pope seemed to have been forced into a corner by him, and he didn't care about his status or dignity anymore. However, he still didn't kill when Xian Holy Man. They're all worried to death, but I know that you'll be fine, Big Brother. Ha ha! Li laughed. Pope's despicable methods will only harm others and himself. Now that the third-dimensional passageway is in danger, he will suffer. The third-dimensional passageway is close to 400 viral, right? Lin Feng estimated. Li nodded. Big Brother, after you left, I didn't participate in the battle. I'm not familiar with them, and I don't feel a sense of belonging. Furthermore, I feel unhappy whenever I see the Taichu Inquisition. Rather than staying there, I might as well come out and slowly cultivate. Lin Feng smiled. That was Li's character. He had guessed that Pope was plotting against him, so he didn't want to fight alongside him. Li came from the Million Wheels 8 front formation, and he didn't feel a sense of belonging to the Taichu. Since he wasn't around, he naturally wouldn't stay. Furthermore, his second brother had also adapted to the viral and the dimensional space, and his abilities had improved in all aspects. His weakness was his willpower. Cultivating here isn't bad. Lin Feng said to Li, second brother, you indeed need to improve your will. Be it to become a world lord or to transform into a Hongmeng gold body. Both are essential. Transform into a Hongmeng gold body? Li gawked. My internal universe has already taken shape. How can it still transform? It can, Lin Feng said resolutely. When there's a strong enough energy impact, there's a possibility for it to change. Having experienced the transformation of the dimensional space and the Hongmeng dimensional body, Lin Feng had a deep understanding of this, and his horizons and experience had broadened greatly. Back then, he had been forcibly transformed by the most powerful viral. However, with his second brother, Li's strength, he might not be able to withstand the viral. The viral of the dimensional space was unstoppable. Once it entered his body, it would directly crush him into powder. However, in order to transform into a Hongmeng body, he didn't necessarily need the viral of the dimensional space. There was also a viral in his body. Although it was only a strand, it would soon become much thicker. The Hongmeng viral in his body could be freely controlled. If his second brother, Li wanted to transform into a Hongmeng gold body or a Hongmeng dimensional body, he might not be able to do it. However, if it was only transforming from a Hongmeng body to a Hongmeng gold body, he could still give it a try. Of course, the prerequisite was that he had to follow his original plan and break through to become a powerful existence. His Hongmeng dimensional body could also take another step forward. There was no hurry. Currently, Lin Feng only had a single thought. Furthermore, his second brother Li's will wasn't enough. Big Brother, are you serious? Li, who originally thought that there was no hope, was suddenly overwhelmed with emotions. That was a Hongmeng gold body, a power at the level of a world lord. the leader of the 5 world lords, the primal chaos Dao monarch, only had a Hongmeng gold body. Of course, when have I ever lied to you? Lin Feng smiled and said, continue to cultivate here and quickly sharpen your will. It's still not enough. There's still a long way to go. No problem. Shi Wanli patted his chest and said excitedly, by the way, big brother, where are you going next? Are you going back to the 3rd dimension? When did the Netherkill clan attack last time? Lin Feng asked. It ended not long ago, Shi Wanli replied. Is that so? Then there's no hurry. Lin Feng pondered and said, since that's the case, I plan to make a trip back to the Taichu. Shi Wanli's eyes lit up. Big brother, you, Lin Feng smiled. After being entangled for so long, it's time to settle this grudge with the Taichu Inquisition. Furthermore, I also... Chapter 32:23. Lin Feng returned to the Taichu. Why would he return to the 3rd-dimensional passageway? To give an explanation? Or to settle the score with Pope? There was no need for that. Soon, everything would be over. After transforming into the Hongmeng dimensional body, Lin Feng had almost reached his limits in all aspects. He also had enough confidence to possess the Taichu origin chaotic universe, be it in all aspects of his body or the most important willpower. Once he possessed the Taichu heavenly path willpower, the Taichu Inquisition would no longer exist. Therefore, there was no need to look for Pope now. After returning to the Emperor Star region, the Emperor Star, presently, it was the most prosperous and bustling area in the entire primeval origin universe. Because Lin Feng had settled down here, it had risen to fame, and it had drawn over group after group of experts of the younger generation. In the current Taichu, the younger generation might not know who Fanzu was, but they definitely knew who Lin Feng was. He was the Taichu hero who had swept Huang Zun's investiture of the gods and Divine Venerate's investiture of the gods. He had left traces of the Taichu in every investiture of the gods, and was comparable to the other 4 origin chaotic universes. This made the Taichu powerhouses of the present day hold their heads high and feel extremely proud. Lin Feng had created record after record. Soon, a new record would be created. Big brother, are you confident? In the Lin mansion, Yi Yuan's eyes were sparkling with hope. Of course. Lin Feng smiled and immediately entered the Hongmeng realm. Before possessing the Taichu heavenly path willpower, Lin Feng still had one more thing to do, and that was to defeat the remaining Yuan Venerate powerhouses on the investiture of the gods. This could only be done when one was a Yuan Venerate, and could never be done when one became an almighty. Until now, no cultivator had ever accomplished this feat, including Emperor Guhuang, who was invincible in the Hongmeng Sea. The Yuan Venerate investiture of the gods had 21 divine generals, but the strongest one was Empty, Myriad Bones' great emperor. Shi Yuan and Yi Xian Sui were the 2 divine generals who were second only to the Myriad Bones emperor. Only Gu Huang had left his name behind. This was because their strength had reached the level of a world lord. Compared to the ultimate universe dominator level blood devil god and red-faced great immortal, he was an entire level stronger. A Yuan Venerate defeating a world master? It was too inconceivable. However, the current Lin Feng could do it, and he was 100% confident. Lin Feng's confidence was greatly boosted by the murderous aura that hadn't broken through. Even if it hadn't broken through, the murderous aura was still at the level of a world lord, and it was one of the best. It's Lin Feng. Lin Feng is here. Lin Feng really came to challenge the investiture of the gods. A group of cultivators was already waiting outside the investiture of the gods. Lin Feng hadn't hidden his tracks when he returned to the Emperor's Star. There was no need for him to be sneaky when returning home. Therefore, many cultivators knew that Lin Feng had returned. They guessed that Lin Feng would most likely challenge the investiture of the gods again since he had left for so long. As expected, that day, Lin Feng stopped when he reached the 18th Divine General, red-faced Great Immortal. This time, Lin Feng would definitely try to break through. Shi Yuan. Lin Feng looked at the investiture of the gods and could sense the chaotic aura within. Hongmeng nomological laws were extremely strong, So this had to be a cultivator with extremely high attainments in Hongmeng nomological laws. Challenging the investiture of the gods wasn't just for fame, but also for the rewards. Aside from the rewards for sweeping through the Yuan venerate investiture of the gods, the rewards for every divine general were considerable. For example, the red-faced great immortal, whom Lin Feng had defeated previously, had given Lin Feng a supreme-grade mental cultivation secret technique, the Defying Heart Technique. Now, the Defying Heart Technique had already been perfected. The Defying Heart Technique had played an important role in defeating murderous Great Immortal. Furthermore, Lin Feng felt that there were many secrets hidden in the dual polarity pagoda of Hongmeng. The investiture of the gods alone was very strange. Who was it that sealed these 108 experts? Were they powerhouses from the past to the Hongmeng Sea? Could they be sealed? The last divine general on the Yuan venerate investiture of the gods, the myriad bone emperor, was the strongest world master. Even a primal chaos Tao Lord would find it difficult to deal with him. In the history of the Hongmeng Sea, there were only a handful of people stronger than the myriad bone emperor. Furthermore, the myriad bone emperor wasn't the strongest of the 108 divine generals. The investiture of the gods was a part of the Hongmeng dual polarity pagoda. The Hongmeng dual polarity pagoda was even more mysterious. It could resonate with virile and had great power at its core. No cultivator had ever been able to get close to the Hongmeng dual polarity pagoda, nor had any cultivator reached the top of the Hongmeng realm. All these signs indicated that the Hongmeng dual polarity pagoda might not have been born at the same time as the Hongmeng Sea. These secrets will be known in the future. Let's eliminate the Yuan venerate investiture of the gods first. Lin Feng entered the investiture of the god space of the 19th divine general, Shi Yuan. Gu Huang was the only one on Shi Yuan's investiture of the gods. I wonder if I can push Gu Huang to second place. Lin Feng was eager to give it a try. Whether it was the Huang Zun investiture of the gods, the godly venerate investiture of the gods, or the current Yuan venerate investiture of the gods, every divine general, Gu Huang, was ranked first, which was enough to show his heaven-defying strength. It wouldn't be easy to push such a super powerhouse down from first place. Oh, it's a level 9 Hongmeng nomological law. As soon as he entered the investiture of the god space, Lin Feng sensed the massive power of Hongmeng nomological laws. It was on the same level as Fanzu's level 9 Hongmeng nomological law, Eternity, and Dao Wuji's level 9 Hongmeng nomological law, Tai Chi. This is a little troublesome. Compared to the powerhouses of the Hongji path, Lin Feng was better at dealing with the powerhouses of the Hongmeng path. He could destroy them easily. However, the powerhouses of the Hongji path were good at using Hongmeng nomological laws, so it would be rather difficult to break them. Fanzu had the 9 tunes array formation. Dao Wuji had the boundless Tai Chi array. Hongmeng nomological laws were a holistic existence. They were the best match for array formations and restrictions, with level 9 nomological laws being the strongest. Lin Feng also had the Mountain Core Realm embodiment. Although it wasn't an array formation, it was similar to a restriction and a domain. Materialized willpower. Lin Feng didn't use the Hongmeng virile to destroy it violently. After all, his strength wasn't strong enough to crush a world lord. If he advanced to another level, he could directly use the Hongmeng virile. However, it was better to use the materialized willpower to break it. Shua, the formless and powerful materialized willpower spread out. Lin Feng instantly understood the entire array. With Shi Yuan as the core, layers of illusions and restrictions fused with level 9 Hongmeng nomological laws. It was full of traps and dangers. If it was before, Lin Feng would be in trouble. But now he didn't even need to use the Mountain Core Realm embodiment. With the protection of the materialized willpower, Lin Feng penetrated through it like a shuttle, destroying the traps and restrictions bit by bit. Shi Yuan, who was in the array, was shocked. He desperately tried to create an array formation to resist, but it couldn't stop Lin Feng's footsteps. This battle wasn't fast or slow. It wasn't fast because Lin Feng couldn't find a way to break the array directly. He could only destroy the restrictions one by one from the outside to the inside. He used a relatively stupid method to complete the challenge. It wasn't slow because even with such a stupid method, Lin Feng didn't stop at all. He didn't stop at all, as if he was running a race. He ran to the finish line at full speed and defeated Shi Yuan. Hua! Lin Feng walked out of the sealed god space. Book Guest House Reading Website. Chapter 32-24. 1. Tai Shi Gu Huang. 2. Tai Chu Lin Feng. Shi Yuan's investiture of the gods was updated. Originally, there was only one spot, but now there was one more. Lin Feng looked at the investiture of the gods of the 19th god, General Shi Yuan. His expression was calm. He wasn't excited or discouraged at all. As expected, I am still lacking a bit. Lin Feng had already grasped the method to break the formation. If he fought Shi Yuan again, Lin Feng was confident that he could complete it much faster than now. All formations had a formation core and formation eye. It wasn't that Lin Feng didn't want to find one, he just didn't want to waste time. If he really wanted to get a result, he could break the seals round by round and leave after seeing Shi Yuan, then challenge him again. But that was meaningless. Even if he was ranked higher than Gu Huang, it was just a trick. Seems like Gu Huang's strength can't be underestimated. Lin Feng was even more impressed with Gu Huang's strength. It was their first time breaking the formation, but Gu Huang's attainments in Hongmeng's laws and formations were much higher than his. Unsurprisingly, Lin Feng himself walked the path of the sword. His attainments in Meng Dao were much higher than Hong Ji's. 2 more chances. After defeating Shi Yuan, Lin Feng didn't even use half of his strength. As for the next 2 battles, Lin Feng was still confident that he could surpass Gu Huang. After recovering, Lin Feng was prepared to challenge the 20th God General, who also had the strength of a world lord. Exin Sui. His ranking was even lower. Exin Sui was stronger than Shi Yuan. From the investiture of the god space, he was an expert that walked the path of the Meng Dao. However, to Lin Feng, Exin Sui was easier to deal with than Shi Yuan. He passed. Lin Feng entered the rankings. My eyes are blinded. After so many eras, there is finally a second cultivator that defeated Shi Yuan. Senior Lin Feng is indeed the pride of our Tai Chu. Just Shi Yuan is nothing. He defeated him in 1 round. Awesome. My idol is my idol. My absolute strength is enough to suppress him. It's a pity that he was just a little bit away from surpassing Gu Huang. Sigh. Gu Huang's record still can't be broken. After all, he's an invincible emperor. If it were that easy to break the record, he would have done it long ago. Lin Feng is very strong, a genius rarely seen in eons. But compared to Genesis Supreme's master, the invincible emperor of the Hongmeng Sea, solitary glory, he might still be a little lacking. Who said that? I believe that Senior Lin Feng is already not inferior to Gu Huang when he was at the same level. The ranking this time is nothing. Just wait and see. Lin Feng will soon push Gu Huang down from his position. The Tai Chu was not the only one paying attention. The Tai Chu cultivators supported Lin Feng wholeheartedly, while the other experts of the primal chaos universe were more rational. However, many also hoped that Lin Feng could break the record of the Hongmeng Sea that had been sealed for countless eras. Many cultivators still did not think highly of Lin Feng. Judging from an objective point of view, it was true. It was rather difficult to break Gu Huang's record. Of course, this was only the opinion of ordinary cultivators. If the experts of the Grand Change Origin Chaotic Universe and the First Dimensional Passageway were to judge, they would probably support Lin Feng without hesitation. Seeing was believing. After witnessing Lin Feng defeat the murderous beast with their own eyes, the top experts of the Grand Change Origin Chaotic Universe knew that Lin Feng's current strength was boundless. Record? It was nothing. Even the invincible Emperor Gu Huang's record was nothing in front of Lin Feng. Boom! This time, Lin Feng did not show any mercy. Facing Exin Sui's skillful techniques and endless attacks, Lin Feng's attack was simple and direct. It was to suppress the Hongmeng virile. Simple, direct, and very effective. Even someone as strong as Murderous Aura could not break it, let alone exin sway. As a world lord, he might be a little stronger than Shi Yuan, but he was completely restrained by Lin Feng. In just 3 moves, his defense was destroyed, and he was defeated by Lin Feng. He felt as if he could not fight back at all. Comfortable. Lin Feng was very satisfied with this battle. Although he had not unleashed his full power, this battle was obviously much smoother than the previous one. It was clean and neat, and it was over in a few moves. Although he was a world lord, his strength was far inferior to Murderous Aura. No matter what, the warm-up effect of this battle was quite good. From the beginning to the end, Lin Feng only had one goal: the Myriad Bones Great Emperor, the strongest world lord. Even the invincible Emperor Gu Huang had not been able to cross this hurdle. It was already heaven-defying for a Yuan Venerate to defeat a world lord. Who would believe that he could defeat the strongest world lord? Who could do it? Lin Feng had not dared to think about it before. However, he was now fully qualified to challenge the Myriad Bone Emperor, the strongest world lord that no one had defeated since the birth of the Hongmeng Sea. First place. After 2 warm-up battles, Lin Feng was still in the mood to look at the rankings. The investiture god rankings of this battle and the investiture god rankings of the previous battle had been swapped. 1. Taichu Lin Feng. 2. Taishir Gu Huang. There were only 2 rankings. Only Lin Feng and Gu Huang had managed to kill Divine General Xian Sui on the investiture god list. Lin Feng remained expressionless as he looked at the shocking rankings. It was exactly the same as when he had seen Shi Yuan's investiture god rankings. He was very calm. This inexplicable calmness was something that Lin Feng had not expected. Even though he had surpassed Gu Huang, there were still no ripples in his heart, as if this was not worth mentioning. Lin Feng knew that this was because of his strength. He was very strong now, much stronger than Gu Huang had been. He was so strong that he had already known that he could defeat these 2 divine generals and surpass Gu Huang's ranking. The reason he had not surpassed Gu Huang's ranking in the first battle was because he had encountered a difficult opponent. However, the second battle was much simpler. When everything was clear, surpassing Gu Huang's ranking was no longer a pleasant surprise. However, Lin Feng still smiled in satisfaction. At least he had surpassed Gu Huang on the investiture god list once. This was the only time. The next time will be when I monopolize the investiture god list. Lin Feng did not even turn his head. His fighting spirit was strong. The next battle against the Myriad Bone Great Emperor was the real highlight. The strongest world master was not to be trifled with. However, this was a threshold that Lin Feng really wanted to break through. Defeating the Myriad Bone Great Emperor would not only mean defeating the strongest world master, but also surpassing Gu Huang. It would also be a magnificent feat that no cultivator in the Hongmeng Sea had ever accomplished. Defeating the Yuan Venerate on the investiture god list would also give him a huge hidden reward. Back then, the hidden reward for defeating the ultimate Venerate on the investiture god list had already been a Hongmeng source item. The hidden reward for defeating the Yuan Venerate on the investiture god list would only be better. Lin Feng was looking forward to it. What kind of treasure would it be? On the other side, Lin Feng did not think much of breaking Gu Huang's legend. However, in the Taichu and Hongmeng Sea, the entire Hongmeng Sea was shaken. Besides the Taichu, the cultivators of the other origin chaotic universes were also shocked by this achievement. The legend had been broken. Chapter 32:25. An emperor's record has been broken. Are my eyes playing tricks on me? Gu Huang's first place record is gone? In the end, it was still broken. I never thought that I would be able to witness such a magnificent feat in my lifetime. The Taichu Lin Feng is really taking one step at a time and breaking the unrivaled emperor's undefeated record bit by bit. His achievements are great. Yes, Lin Feng is too extraordinary. One step at a time. Looking at Lin Feng's record on the investiture of the gods, it could be seen that he wasn't like Gu Huang, who had appeared out of nowhere and dominated the entire investiture of the gods. The Huang Zun investiture of the gods, the godly Venerate investiture of the gods, and even the Yuan Venerate investiture of the gods. Lin Feng had slowly increased his ranking until he reached the pinnacle. It was visible to the naked eye. Compared to Gu Huang's unattainable record, Lin Feng's record was even more inspiring. It was like a grassroots counterattack. It caused the entire Hongmeng Sea to tremble. The Taichu side was even more excited. They had been waiting for this moment for too long and weren't as calm as Lin Feng. They had been suppressing it for a long time, waiting for Lin Feng to surpass Gu Huang and set a new record. Now, their wait had finally come. Not only had Lin Feng defeated Yixin Sui, who was ranked 20th on the Yuan Venerate Investiture of the Gods, but he had also broken Gu Huang's record and taken the top spot on the Investiture of the Gods. Although this was only Lin Feng's first time at the top of the Investiture of the Gods, it was still a milestone, regardless of whether it was for Lin Feng or the Taichu. Taichu's light. Senior Lin Feng is too awesome. What did I say? I knew that Senior Lin Feng would definitely surpass Gu Huang's ranking. Nonsense. Weren't you the one who was stomping your feet and pounding your chest when Senior Lin Feng challenged the Investiture of the Gods? All right, what's there to fight about? In any case, didn't Senior Lin Feng surpass Gu Huang? Ha ha ha, this is awesome. This is Emperor Gu Huang's record. In the entire Hongmeng Sea, only Senior Lin Feng can do this. If not me, who else can do it? Who would have thought that Senior Lin Feng would be able to defeat the 20th Divine General, Xin Sui? Who would have thought that Senior Lin Feng would be able to snatch Gu Huang's first place? Hey, what can't Senior Lin Feng do? It's just a ranking record. Just wait and see. Senior Lin Feng will definitely challenge the unprecedented record and sweep through the Yuan Venerate Investiture God list. The crowd was in an uproar. Yes, they had been so focused on celebrating that they had forgotten that there was still a final hurdle in the Investiture of the Gods. It was also the most difficult hurdle. Up until now, no cultivator had ever completed this feat, including Emperor Gu Huang, Myriad Bone's great emperor. Since the beginning of the Investiture of the Gods, no one had ever been defeated. Therefore, ever since the Investiture God list had been created, no cultivator had ever accomplished the feat of sweeping away all Yuan Venerates on the Investiture God list. Now there was hope again. The Taichu's heaven-defying newcomer, Lin Feng. Breaking Xin Sui's Investiture of the Gods ranking record meant that Lin Feng's strength was at least on par with Gu Huang's. He was completely capable of challenging the strongest Myriad Bone's great emperor. You guys are dreaming. That's the Myriad Bone's great emperor we're talking about. Yes, even Gu Huang was defeated. I'm afraid that the Myriad Bone's great emperor, the 5 great absolute beings, will only be defeated. If Lin Feng could defeat the Myriad Bone's great emperor, it means that he is stronger than the 5 great absolute beings. Is that possible? I don't know, but we have to give it a try. What if he succeeds? Yes, since Senior Lin Feng can defeat Shi Yuan and Xin Sui, he at least has a chance of defeating the Myriad Bone's great emperor. The Taichu cultivators were still optimistic about this. Although they were a little worried, Lin Feng was already a symbol of invincibility in their hearts. He could definitely try to compete with the Myriad Bone's great emperor. Even if he lost, it wouldn't be a big deal. As for the other Origin chaotic universes, they weren't so optimistic. Defeating Shi Yuan and Xin Sui was one thing, but competing with the Myriad Bone's great emperor was another. One was a world master, and the other was the strongest world master. How could they be the same? There was a big difference. The strongest world master. Lin Feng also knew that the final challenge was extraordinary. Even Emperor Gu Huang had failed. Fortunately, it was only the strongest world master of the Hongmeng Sea. If it was the strongest world master of the Netherkill race, he could have just given up. Equivalent to the strength of a primal Chaos Dao Lord, or even stronger. Lin Feng had come into contact with a primal Chaos Dao Lord before and had a certain understanding of his strength. With his current strength, he wasn't afraid of a primal Chaos Dao Lord, but he wasn't confident of defeating him. It's really not that easy to sweep through the Yuan Venerate Investiture list. Lin Feng was confident that he could defeat the Myriad Bone's great emperor if he could break through to become an almighty. However, the Hongmeng dimensional body had just reached saturation and hadn't reached the second stage yet. It was very stressful to fight against the strongest world master now. However, Lin Feng already had a plan in mind. Both Shi Yuan and Yixin Sui used Hongmeng energy. They were both powerhouses of the Hongmeng Sea, and the other powerhouses on the Yuan Venerate investiture list were the same. Therefore, Lin Feng guessed that the Myriad Bones Great Emperor was definitely one of them. What was the best way to deal with the powerhouses of the Hongmeng Sea? It wasn't virile suppression. Of course, if it was purely virile, it would be unstoppable. However, Lin Feng only had a trace of virile. It only had a suppressive and restraining effect, not a crushing effect. Great change. Lin Feng's self-created secret technique, insect emergence and great change, simulated and transformed the energy of the bug race and fused with the special abilities of the bug race. It was the most effective against the powerhouses of the Hongmeng Sea. Back then, he had relied on this technique to be on par with the Pope. The self-created secret technique had 4 levels, or rather, 4 steps. Lin Feng had completed the first and second steps, which were insect emergence and great change, respectively. Insect emergence was purely a transformation of energy, while great change was a fusion of energy and the special abilities of the bug race. Lin Feng hadn't continued to study and comprehend the 3rd and 4th levels. Firstly, he had reached a bottleneck. Secondly, he had entered the dual towers of Hongmeng. However, he could now create a new secret technique. After transforming into the Hongmeng dimensional body, Lin Feng's horizons and level were much higher than before. In particular, having a trace of virile had forcefully pulled Lin Feng's level to an extremely high level and allowed him to comprehend much more clearly. The 3rd step is to completely display the characteristics of the bug race's energy and fully display its devouring power. The 4th step is the true ultimate form, the perfect fusion of the bug race's energy and my own energy. I can completely suppress the Hongmeng energy and internal universe. Not only can I perfectly display my strength, but I can also devour the Hongmeng energy and use it for myself. Lin Feng naturally didn't need to use it for himself. However, devouring the Hongmeng energy was very powerful. The 2 steps can be combined into one. I only need to use virile as a guide. The strength and transformation control of the Hongmeng virile will be much stronger than before. This isn't difficult. He had absorbed all kinds of energy in the dimensional space, and they were all comparable to the energy of the Hongmeng Sea or even stronger. The current energy transformation was a piece of cake for Lin Feng. Difficult to simulate the bug race's energy? Difficult to fuse? It didn't exist. Chapter 32:26. Virile itself could fuse with all kinds of energy. In the dimensional space, virile was like a ruler, gathering all kinds of energy and fusing them together. Although Lin Feng had never tried it before, he had seen and absorbed energy, so he had a rough idea. It was not difficult to fuse. There were some things that were difficult to do at that time. However, as he improved in all aspects, everything would be solved at a certain point. The energy changed, completely simulated, and fused again. It was done in one go. This time, the creation of the secret technique was unprecedentedly fast. After completing it in one go, Lin Feng modified a few details, and the self-created secret technique, Dimensional Devour, was perfectly presented. Although it only took a short time to create, its power could not be underestimated, especially against the cultivators of the Hongmeng Sea. If I use the Dimensional Devour secret technique, I'm afraid even Chaos Tao Lords won't be able to withstand it. Lin Feng smiled. The Zerg's natural ability to devour the universe was the nemesis of Hongmeng energy. If not for the fact that the Zergs were individually weak, the Hongmeng Sea would have been destroyed long ago. Even so, the Zergs still posed a huge threat and disaster to the Hongmeng Sea. First, there was the calamity of Taishu, and then there was the large-scale invasion of the Taichu. They almost succeeded. Speaking of which, I still haven't caught that Zerg spy. Lin Feng thought of Marshal Wali Hongmeng. She was mysterious and unfathomable. Previously, he thought that she was a Zerg spy, but there was no evidence, so he let it go. When the time comes, I'll go and meet her. The current Lin Feng was much stronger than before. Just his understanding of energy and perception of Will had surpassed the level of the Hongmeng Sea. When he met Marshal Wali Hongmeng again, he would definitely be able to find out the secrets she was hiding. However, there was no hurry now. Lin Feng used the Hongmeng virile secret technique. His battle blade, Snow Nectar, was actually not as powerful as a normal Hongmeng sword, especially when fighting against the Netherkill clan. However, it had a significant suppressive effect on Hongmeng energy. This was very important. It was the key to fighting against the Myriad Bones Great Emperor. This is already my limit. If even this can't defeat the Myriad Bones Great Emperor, then this is the only way. Lin Feng had cultivated almost all aspects to the extreme, especially the way of Meng, which had reached the limit of the Hongmeng Sea. The only thing he could improve was his attainments in the way of Hongmeng. However, even if he improved in this aspect, it would only improve his attainments and level. In terms of battle prowess, he might not be able to defeat the way of Meng. If he won, he won. If he lost, it didn't matter. It was not shameful for a Yuan Venerate to lose to the strongest great Cosmo sovereign, right? Lin Feng smiled faintly. His fighting spirit was already at its peak. The previous two battles had completely warmed up his body, and his blood vessels were expanding. He was in extremely good state. As for creating a mystic technique, it actually didn't take much time. Strictly speaking, this couldn't even be considered the creation of a mystic technique. The god-sealing space of the Myriad Bones Great Emperor, which symbolized the strongest person on the Yuan Venerate's investiture of the gods, flickered with a dazzling luster. As everyone watched, Lin Feng's figure flashed and entered directly. Fight! He didn't have any thoughts. He just had to fight to his heart's content. He would complete this battle and end the Yuan Venerate's investiture of the gods. Fourth stage. As soon as he entered, Lin Feng unleashed his strongest combat prowess. He was facing an unprecedentedly strong opponent who might be even stronger than the murderous Dao, Lord of Primal Chaos. He couldn't hold back at all. It was a powerhouse wearing bone armor and a bone helmet. His entire body was covered so tightly that his appearance couldn't be seen. From afar, it looked like he was made of tens of thousands of bones. However, up close, it was a complete set of armor. The grayish-white bone armor contained vigorous power. It was obvious at a glance that it was a source item of the Hongmeng ruler. A complete set of Hongmeng ruler's source items. It included armor, bone robes, gauntlets, and greaves. In addition to its own defense, the bone armor set also seemed to give the Myriad Bones Great Emperor a unique and powerful energy. Oh, this should be a unique dimensional treasure, right? Lin Feng sensed that the energy in the bone armor set had been absorbed in the dimensional space. It wasn't considered strong and was on par with the energy of the Hongmeng ruler. However, this was the same as the Mountain Core World embodiment. It didn't need to consume any energy. It was just an additional energy. With the addition of the grayish-white energy, the Myriad Bones Great Emperor became even more mysterious, and his aura was different. The difference was that the Mountain Core World embodiment wouldn't be of much use against the Myriad Bones Great Emperor. The Mountain Core World embodiment was very useful for control, domains, and group battles. However, in a one-on-one situation, it was almost useless against the Myriad Bones Great Emperor. The strongest Great Obliteration was still an indiscriminate attack and wasted too much energy. As for the suppression of his internal universe, it didn't exist for the current Lin Feng. Although Lin Feng was only a Yuan Venerate, his internal universe was filled with rich Hongmeng virile, which contained a trace of virile. No one in the dimensional space could suppress virile, let alone a mere Hongmeng Sea. However, Lin Feng couldn't use his internal universe to suppress others unless he became an almighty and his internal universe was perfect. There was no need for that. If he really wanted to suppress someone, Lin Feng's virile alone was enough. Furthermore, the internal universe was a characteristic of Hongmeng Sea cultivators. Lin Feng was only a Yuan Venerate now, but he was almost invincible in Hongmeng Sea. What was there to suppress? TSK. The Myriad Bones Great Emperor used a white bone spear. Unsurprisingly, It was a legendary Hongmeng technique. Although it hadn't reached the highest source level, it had reached the pinnacle of the legendary grade. His movements were clean and concise, without any sloppiness. Powerful strength, coupled with the essence of his spear technique, made the Myriad Bone's great emperor's attack extremely fast. He took advantage of the weapon to attack first. However, the moment it came into contact with Lin Feng's snow jewel, the white bone spear shook violently as if it had met its nemesis and quickly wilted. Although the spear technique's realm was extremely high, both of the Myriad Bone's great emperor's powers were restrained by Lin Feng. The white bone energy was suppressed by Viral. The Hongmeng energy was devoured and absorbed by the secret technique, Dimensional Devour. Perfect conversion, perfect fusion. Lin Feng's secret technique, Dimensional Devour, could not only unleash 100% of the bug race's energy, but also fused with his own power and unleashed the same power of his saber technique. It struck after the enemy and forcibly broke through the Myriad Bone's great emperor's attack. What? The Myriad Bone's great emperor's expression changed abruptly as he exclaimed. The paleness under the white bone helmet could be felt completely. This was the first time he had encountered such a strange thing in the endless epochs of the investiture of the gods. However, he was the strongest great cosmos master after all. After realizing that something was wrong, the Myriad Bone's great emperor quickly adjusted his strategy. The white bone spear in his hand was like a spiral hurricane, attacking Lin Feng from all directions. His feet moved in a strange way, and faint starlight shone like a domain. Myriad Bone's star steps. This was the ultimate technique of the Myriad Bone's great emperor. It had an extraordinary effect both in attack and defense. It was a true source-level secret technique. The strongest great cosmos master, the investiture of the gods that had never been defeated, the Myriad Bone's great emperor had the strength of the strongest great cosmos master. Chapter 32:27. The strongest world lord was basically the limit of the Hongmeng Sea. To reach this level, one had to reach the limit of either the path of Hongmeng or the path of Meng. The other had to reach the sublimit. Chaos Dowlord was the only one among the 5 world lords who had reached the threshold of the strongest world lord. The reason why he was only at the threshold was because he was unable to reach the limit of the path of Meng. It was difficult for the Hongmeng golden body to evolve. For people like the Thousand Blood Empress and Dao Wuji, although they had reached the sublimit of the path of Hongmeng, they were too weak in the path of Meng. They had only reached the basic perfection and could not even reach the threshold of the strongest world lord. There were 2 ways to reach the sublimit of the path of Hongmeng. One was to comprehend the level 9 Hongmeng law to perfection, or comprehend the level 8 Hongmeng law to perfection. The second was to create an origin level Hongmeng secret technique, or Hongmeng secret technique. There were 3 ways to reach the sublimit of the path of Meng. Cultivate the body to the indestructible Hongmeng body, cultivate the soul to the indestructible Hongmeng soul, and evolve the heart cultivator to the Hongmeng golden body. The Thousand Bones Emperor's path of Hongmeng was at the sublimit. Although he had not comprehended the level 9 Hongmeng law to perfection, he had created an origin level Hongmeng secret technique. He was talented in the path of Meng and was born at the beginning of the Hongmeng Sea. He had cultivated the indestructible Hongmeng body and indestructible Hongmeng soul. He was no weaker than Lin Feng's Hongmeng Yuan body after using the heart-defying secret technique. In fact, he was even stronger. After all, Lin Feng's Hongmeng Yuan body was still in its infancy and was not at its peak. In terms of pure strength, the Myriad Bone's great emperor could overpower Lin Feng. However, his energy was restrained, which caused great trouble for the Myriad Bone's great emperor. His strongest point was his attainments in the Tao of Meng. With his energy restrained, his advantage was greatly reduced. If Lin Feng really wanted to calculate his strength now, he was actually at the threshold of the strongest world lord. The legendary Hongmeng's supreme art created by the path of Hongji was at the great perfection of the foundation. However, the path of Meng was at the extreme perfection. Therefore, Lin Feng would have a hard time dealing with experts at the sublimit of the path of Hongji. However, he could deal with experts at the sublimit of the path of Ming. If the myriad bones great emperor's attainments in the Tao of Hongji could reach the limit, Lin Feng would undoubtedly lose this contest. However, everyone was at their limit in terms of blindness. Lin Feng's energy could restrain the myriad bone great emperor, so it was hard to say. Neither was willing to give an inch. This was one of the most exciting battles since the birth of the Hongmeng Sea. Although the myriad bones emperor was restrained in terms of energy and suffered a small loss, his source-level Hongmeng's ultimate technique, the myriad bone star steps, could be used to attack and defend. Instead, he was able to suppress Lin Feng in the Tao of Hongji, which he was not proficient in. However, since it was an ultimate technique, there was a possibility that it could be cracked. Lin Feng's attainments in this aspect were not weak either. His Tai Chi legendary technique had fused the Tai Chi Hongmeng law and the invincible fist technique concept. The Tai Chi Hongmeng technique was a level 9 Hongmeng law, and the invincible fist technique concept, it had already exceeded the scope of the source. In terms of the power level of the Hongmeng Sea, it had reached the limit of the Tao of Hongji. The stronger the opponent, the stronger. Although Lin Feng's saber technique was dodged by the myriad bones great emperor again and again, the image of Tai Chi became denser and denser. The domineering and peerless fist technique concept kept appearing in Lin Feng's mind, and the attacks evolved into his own comprehension. Previously, Lin Feng had comprehended more in this move, and he had improved more in the Tai Chi Hongmeng law. But this time, he had improved more. It was a fist technique. After observing the invincible fist technique countless times, it had long been deeply imprinted in his mind. Lin Feng's current vision and level were extremely high. As he fought, he gained more and more insights. The invincible fist technique was quite compatible with Lin Feng. The concept was domineering and indomitable. It was very suitable for Lin Feng to comprehend and cultivate. Creating the Tai Chi legendary technique was a coincidence, but it was more of a natural process. Now it was the same. Damn it. The myriad bones great emperor's spear technique was not bad, but he spent more energy tempering his body and did not improve his spear technique. His spear technique realm had not reached the source level. Facing Lin Feng's saber technique, although he had the upper hand with his footwork, he could not suppress him. Every time he attacked the opponent's flaws, the energy explosion was always sluggish, unable to display its full effect. Therefore, he was unable to gain the upper hand. This kid is getting stronger and stronger. Not good. The myriad bones great emperor could feel Lin Feng's improvement. Like a boat against the wind, the pressure on him was increasing. Especially his saber technique, it was exploding more and more. It seemed to have merged with Hongmeng's laws, but there were also other concepts within. Destruction. Great destruction. Lin Feng used the two concepts in his saber technique. The perfect level of Hongmeng's laws could be used freely. It was like adding bricks and tiles to the saber technique, causing the saber technique to change a lot. The Tai Chi image became weaker, the domineering concept became stronger. When Lin Feng first created the legendary Tai Chi, it was because he had been observing the battle between Wu Ji and Invincible. Therefore, he formed the concept of fusion. But in reality, these two forces were not that compatible. Hongmeng's laws of Tai Chi focused on defense and balance. Invincible fist technique, on the other hand, was unstoppable. Hongmeng's laws of the 9th level were not necessarily strong, especially when Lin Feng himself had not comprehended the Hongmeng's laws of Tai Chi compatibility was the most important. With invincible fist technique's concept as the core, it was just like how Lin Feng used the mountain core world as the core to create his saber technique. With his previous experience, whether it was destruction or great destruction, they were actually quite compatible with invincible fist technique's concept. Clang! Pure power erupted violently. Boom! 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 Lin Feng's attacks were more and more powerful. Complemented by the 4th section of the saber, Snow Jewel, it was even more domineering. When the attack energy exploded, it would also affect the myriad bones great emperor. His two types of energy were restrained by Lin Feng. Weiho virile. Lin Feng relied on his energy advantage to forcefully reverse the difference in strength. The intense battle allowed his saber technique to be reborn. In the battle, he gradually created a new saber technique. Although it was not as mature as the other three techniques, the realm and upper limit of the saber technique was undoubtedly the best. Vaguely, it had already reached the origin level. Invincible fist technique's realm surpassed the origin level. Although Lin Feng had only comprehended a part of it, the power that he could unleash when combined with the Hongmeng's laws could also reach the origin level. Great destruction. Lin Feng's saber technique blasted out, and a terrifying energy erupted. It was as if he had transformed into an invincible being. The saber technique's suppression finally broke Myriad Bone's Great Emperor's ultimate move, Myriad Bone Star Steps. The latter's expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly retreated. However, the situation was completely in Lin Feng's hands at this time. It's time to end this. The injured Lin Feng was like a ferocious beast. His battle strength increased with each wave. His newly created saber technique completely suppressed Myriad Bone's Great Emperor. He established his advantage with each slash and destroyed Myriad Bone's Great Emperor's spirit. Boom! Chapter 32:28. This battle was the focus of everyone's attention. No one had much confidence in Lin Feng. After all, the Myriad Bone Great Emperor's strength was obvious. He had dominated the Hongmeng Sea undefeated, and even Emperor Gu Huang had failed to defeat him. However, Lin Feng had surpassed Gu Huang in the ranking of 20th Divine General Yixin Sui, which gave the cultivators a glimmer of hope. Perhaps a miracle would happen? It's too difficult. Myriad Bone Great Emperor. Lin Feng is already very impressive to be able to break Gu Huang's record. Yes, I think it's fine too. Lin Feng isn't any worse than Gu Huang in the past. However, sweeping the Yuan Venerate Investiture of the Gods is too abnormal. It's simply impossible. Let's wait a little longer. Lin Feng has already been in there for a long time. He should be coming out soon. It doesn't matter if he wins or loses. It's fine as long as he's fine. Whoosh! When Lin Feng, who was covered in blood and heavily injured, appeared outside the investiture of the god's space, all the cultivators' eyes widened. Although they were not confident, they still checked the investiture of the gods of the Myriad Bone Great Emperor almost at the same time. What appeared before their eyes was a shocking update of the investiture of the gods. The Myriad Bone Great Emperor's investiture of the gods was no longer empty. 1. Taichu Lin Feng. It was simple, but it was like a heavy bomb had exploded. This was the only ranking, but it was significant and an extremely important milestone. Lin Feng had created an unprecedented record. He had defeated the Myriad Bone Great Emperor. He had swept the Yuan Venerate Investiture of the Gods. Even unrivaled Emperor Gu Huang had failed to create a record, but Lin Feng had achieved it. It was unprecedented. At the moment, it wasn't just the Taichu cultivators. The entire Hongmeng Sea was boiling with excitement and cheering loudly. There was no jealousy. When a cultivator's strength reached such a level, it was impossible to be jealous. Everyone was simply not on the same level. Although Lin Feng was a Taichu cultivator, the cultivators of the other origin chaotic universes couldn't hide their joy either. Lin Feng had conquered the Myriad Bone Great Emperor and the Yuan Venerate's investiture god list. This was a victory for the entire Hongmeng Sea. Emperor. Invincible Emperor. The new Invincible Emperor. The Taichu Emperor. Hongmeng Sea Emperor. All sorts of cheers rang out from all over the Hongmeng Sea. At this moment, Lin Feng's reputation had reached its peak, standing at the top of the Hongmeng Sea. No one would compare Lin Feng to Gu Huang anymore, because the current Lin Feng was stronger than Gu Huang. He was even more qualified to be known as the Emperor. What Gu Huang did, Lin Feng did. What Gu Huang did, Lin Feng did. No one knew what it meant to sweep through the Yuan Venerate's investiture god list, as no cultivator had ever accomplished it. Lin Feng didn't know either, as he was still in a daze. It was as if he had become closer to the Hongmeng dual pole pagoda and had a deeper connection with the core of the Hongmeng dual pole pagoda. However, This was just a budding feeling and not a real reward. The real reward had already been triggered when Lin Feng swept through the Yuan Venerate's investiture god list. A hidden reward. The reward for sweeping through the Huang Zun's investiture god list was one of the 7 almighty Hongmeng source items. The reward for sweeping through the Yuan Venerate's investiture god list was one of the 5 Hongmeng source items. The reward for sweeping through the Yuan Venerate's investiture god list was one of the 3 treasures that surpass the Hongmeng source items. Lin Feng looked at the 3 treasures before him and sensed an aura similar to the rainbow primal chaos boat under the feet of the primal chaos Dao Lord. The Hongmeng source items weren't the most extreme treasures in the Hongmeng Sea. The Hongmeng source items could be used by universe rulers. World masters could unleash the full power of the Hongmeng source items. As for the strongest power in the primordial sea, it should be the strongest world master. The strongest Hongmeng source items. A battle blade. Lin Feng's gaze fell on the blood-red battle blade on the left. It was tailor-made for him, as it was the only weapon among the 3 strongest Hongmeng source items. Obviously, this wasn't a coincidence. The investiture god list belonged to the Hongmeng dual pole tower, and this was a gift from the Hongmeng dual pole tower. It was surrounded by strange, mysterious patterns and contained an astonishing amount of Hongmeng energy. Lin Feng sensed at least 3 different level 9 Hongmeng nomological laws. The power of this blood-red battle blade was much stronger than that of Snow Jade. Its upper limit was even higher. It was very suitable for him. A set of battle armor. In the middle was a complete set of battle armor. It looked very light, and the golden engravings were quite close to his mental cultivation. It seemed to be a treasure for mental cultivators. Lin Feng could sense his mental cultivation. This wasn't just a set of defensive battle armor. It was also a supreme-grade mental cultivation treasure. Its overall ability was quite strong. The engravings on it also contained level 9 Hongmeng nomological laws. He was very familiar with one of them, which was the Tai Chi Hongmeng nomological laws. Lin Feng looked at the broken but slowly repaired Dominator equipment set on his body. To be honest, the Dominator equipment set that could be worn by universe rulers was slightly inferior in terms of defense and other functions. Its only advantage was that it couldn't be damaged and could self-repair. This set of mental cultivator battle armor was also very suitable for him. A lake. Lin Feng looked at the treasure on the right. It looked like a miniature blue lake. It looked like a pond, but it wasn't. The surface of the lake was sparkling, and he could clearly sense the majestic energy contained in the lake. Once it was magnified, its power would be limitless. The lake water was overflowing with Hongmeng energy. Many light spots looked very special, and Su Chen didn't know what they were. He couldn't tell from its appearance, but Lin Feng knew that this most powerful Hongmeng origin item was a domain type or control type treasure. There was a large array hidden around the lake, and the lake itself was filled with vigorous energy. Compared to his mountain core world avatar, this blue lake was undoubtedly a sublimation. In battle, domain type treasures were very important, even more so than defense. Lin Feng was good at close combat. If he had such a treasure, he would undoubtedly be able to achieve twice the results with half the effort. This one was also very suitable for him. Oh, Lin Feng felt a headache coming on. The 3 most powerful Hongmeng origin items seemed to have been taken out by the Hongmeng dual polarity pagoda to deliberately make things difficult for him. If 2 of them were slightly inferior, Lin Feng would have chosen them without hesitation. However, all 3 were what he needed, and he didn't know where to start. Whichever one he chose was right. However, giving up the other 2 didn't seem right. This is going to be difficult for me. Lin Feng smiled bitterly. Choosing these 3 treasures was more difficult than fighting with the Myriad Bones Emperor again. After all, this was his first most powerful Hongmeng origin item. It was temporarily useless, but once he broke through to become an almighty, it would play a decisive role, especially when fighting against the Netherkill race. A most powerful Hongmeng origin item could greatly increase his strength. I'll choose according to its usefulness to the Netherkill race. Lin Feng glanced at the 3 treasures again. His eyes flashed slightly. After pondering for a while, he came to a conclusion. This is it. Chapter 32:29. The three strongest Hong Meng source items each had their own strengths. The saber directly increased attack power. The mental cultivation armor not only increased defense, but also increased mental cultivation ability, and the blue lake could construct a domain and exert control. To Lin Feng, all three were treasures with immediate effects. The hidden reward of Hongming's dual polarity tower was not bad. If possible, of course, it would be better to have all three. However, nothing was perfect in the world, so he had to choose one. In the Hongmeng Sea, apart from Taishi's Emperor Guhuang, Lin Feng was invincible. This included the leader of the five world lords, Primal Chaos Tao Lord. Lin Feng was confident that he could fight him with the secret technique, Dimensional Devour. He might not be able to win now, but after breaking through to become an almighty, his chances would be much higher. Therefore, when choosing treasures, he had to consider his future opponents, the Nether Killer race. Even the Nether Killer race's world lords and ordinary 9 Hell's Kings were like sabers and swords. Lin Feng was not confident that he could defeat them when they were in the state of breaking extremity, not to mention the 3 strongest Hell Kings of the Nether Killer race. Once they used breaking extremity, their strength would be unpredictable. In a one-on-one battle, defense was the least important factor. Although the mental cultivation armor could increase mental cultivation ability, it was only an auxiliary ability and the increase was limited. Moreover, to the Nether Killer race, who had strong willpower, the strength of their mental cultivation ability was not decisive. Even if its overall strength was outstanding, Lin Feng eliminated it first among the 3 strongest Hong Meng source items. What was left was the choice between the blood red saber and the blue lake. Logically speaking, he should choose the blood red saber. To a close combat expert, weapons were the most important. Even Lin Feng's current attacks were mainly saber techniques. However, Lin Feng, who had just been recognized by the weapon spirit and could unleash the full power of Snow Jewel, did not want to change his saber so quickly. He needed to familiarize himself with the new saber, which was a long process. For a long time, the new saber would not be stronger than Snow Jewel. Moreover, Lin Feng now had new ideas about his weapon. He did not have to change to a stronger saber. The last strongest Hong Meng source item looked the most inconspicuous at first glance. It was just an ordinary blue lake, but Lin Feng could clearly sense that it contained a huge amount of energy that was not inferior to Primal Chaos Daelord's Rainbow Chaos Boat. Even the specks of light in the lake seemed to have a special effect. Control, domain-type treasures. Even though it usually had to be compatible with the primordial laws in order to bring out its perfect might, Lin Feng was very clearly aware that this was the most effective of the 3 strongest primordial origin items against the Nether Killer clan. Ancestor fans 9 Tunes Gina Ray controlled the entire situation. Dao Wuji's Dao's limitless infinity. The Nethersha clan was not familiar with formations, domains, and restrictions. They did not have the corresponding treasures either. Therefore, treasures like these were often the most effective when fighting against them. Moreover, this was the most powerful primordial chaos origin item. There was a high chance that it was a treasure of Hongji's. How powerful would Hongming's source item be if it was cultivated to its peak? Foundation completion. For example, the Mountain Core World Incarnation could fully display the 7th Order Hongmeng Law, Great Annihilation, and the 6th Order Innate Hongmeng Law Annihilation, supported by countless small worlds incarnations. Its power was comparable to the 8th Order Hongmeng Law Great Perfection. Based on this, the ultimate power of the strongest Hongmeng source item was basically at the sublimit. There were basically 2 ways to reach the sublimit of the Tao of Hongmeng. The first was to reach perfection in the 9th Order Hongmeng laws, and the second was to learn the source-level Hongmeng secret techniques. The Blue Lake might very well contain the secret of Hongmeng's law perfection. To Lin Feng, whose attainments in the Hongmeng Tao were slightly weaker, obtaining such a powerful Hongmeng origin item would not only allow him to use it in battle, but it would also be of great help to his cultivation base. Whoosh, as soon as the blue lake entered his hand, the other two strongest primordial origin treasures vanished. Controlling this strongest primordial origin treasure was like holding an entire universe in one's hand, and it was boundlessly vast and majestic. Blue Frost Immortal Dust Lake. The name of this most powerful primordial origin item appeared in Lin Feng's mind. Lin Feng put it away. As for its specific functions, he would only know after he completely refined it. However, there was no rush. After all, even if he completely refined it, he still had to cultivate in order to unleash its full power. At least, Lin Feng was already very satisfied with what he knew. This was a domain-type treasure, and it was very suitable for him. If his senses were not wrong, the ninth-order Hongmeng law it contained was life. Taishe Origin Chaotic Universe, one of the 5 origin chaotic universes. The most mysterious and unpredictable region of the Hongmeng Sea. It was densely covered with chaotic airflow and completely inaccessible. The ordinary cultivators of the Hongmeng Sea did not know, but the top powerhouses knew that this was a completely sealed-off origin chaotic universe. It was not sealed off by itself, but by a transcendent existence. Emperor Lonesome Glory. The calamity of Taishe was the most serious insectoid invasion in the Hongmeng Sea to date. Like a single spark, it almost devoured the entire Taishe origin chaotic universe. The other 4 origin chaotic universes had no choice but to give up on assisting Taishe, leaving him to fend for himself. Lonesome Glory emerged from the dead end, maturing and becoming stronger through countless battles of life and death. He spent countless epochs before finally wiping out the insectoids. Afterwards, he sealed off the Taishe origin chaotic universe, drawing a clear line between himself and the other 4 origin chaotic universes. As a result, no Grand Primes could be seen anywhere in the Hongmeng Sea. Newcomer, Lin Feng, defeated the Myriad Bone Great Emperor and swept through the Yuan Venerate's investiture of the gods. A proud and aloof figure stood alone before the grand beginning star Jade. His entire body was like an invincible sword that was sharp and dazzling, and he imperceptibly emanated a strong, killing intent. He'd already completely fused with the Wahid manifested. The 9th level of the primordial laws, destruction, had advanced step by step from slaughter. At this point, it had already reached the congenital realm, and it was an existence of destruction itself. How many insectoids had Lin Feng killed? Many. But it was not even a billionth of what Lonesome Glory had done. This was an emperor forged from killing, the king of destruction. It's been a long time. To Gu Huang, being a Yuan Venerate was indeed a long time ago. It was so long ago that he had almost forgotten about it. Or rather, he simply didn't want to recall those years of slaughter. But when the dusty memories were lifted, he still remembered them, because challenging the Myriad Bones Emperor had left an indelible impression on him. He had not defeated the Myriad Bones Emperor. So, is this what I'm missing? Everything will be clear very soon. The secrets of the Hongmeng Twin Towers, the secrets of the Hongmeng world. Lin Feng was one of the few cultivators who had left an impression on Lonesome Glory in the past, but that was all. Someone as strong as Lonesome Glory naturally would not take Lin Feng seriously. The gap between the two of them was just too great. The 21st level of the Hongmeng world. The Master of Hongmeng. Chapter 3230. The entire Taichu was celebrating and shouting crazily. The entire Hongmeng Sea was also in an uproar as Lin Feng's deeds and legends spread everywhere. Lin Feng had swept through the Yuan Venerate investiture of the gods and broken Gu Huang's record. This was unprecedented. However, Lin Feng didn't really care. He was unexpectedly calm. In fact, after transforming his Hongmeng dimensional body, Lin Feng had become completely indifferent. It wasn't that he wasn't interested in improving his own strength, but that his horizons were much higher now. Defeating the Myriad Bone Great Emperor was nothing. His current strength was still at the threshold of the strongest world lord, and he wasn't at the peak of the Hongmeng Sea. He couldn't fight with the Netherkill race in the dimensional passage and keep them out of the dimensional world. Even if he became the strongest world lord, he would still be very insignificant in the dimensional space. The path of cultivation in the future would be very long. Let's collect the 3 ordinary rewards first. Defeating Shi Yuan, Ishin Sui, and the myriad bone Great Emperor gave him a choice of one of the 3 rewards. Of course, it couldn't be compared to the hidden reward of sweeping through the Yuan Venerate investiture of the gods. It could only be considered an ordinary reward. However, this ordinary reward wasn't ordinary either. The heaven-defying heart technique had been a reward for defeating the red-faced immortal and had been of great help to Lin Feng. Shi Yuan and Ishin Sui were naturally much stronger than the red-faced immortal, so their rewards were also more generous. As for the myriad bone Great Emperor, even though it couldn't be compared to the hidden reward of sweeping through the Yuan Venerate investiture of the gods, he could at least obtain a treasure of the value of a Hongmeng ruler source item. Shi Yuan, this was the world lord who cultivated the Hongyi path. The investiture of the gods' reward was clear and straightforward. The left reward was Shi Yuan's treasure, the middle reward was purely based on luck, and the right reward was cultivation. For Lin Feng, who might not even care about a Hongmeng ruler source item, it was almost impossible for him to choose cultivation. Secret technique? Absolute technique. It's what I need the most, Pa. The moment Lin Feng touched it, his mind went blank. It was as if a ray of light had fallen from the sky and entered his internal universe, spreading out. It was the law of Hongmeng that he was extremely familiar with. He had fought against Shi Yuan before. Of course, Lin Feng's heart trembled. It corresponded to the 9th order Hongmeng's law of nothingness, which represented the existence of fullness, freedom, and autonomy. Countless insights, the true essence and mysteries of Hongmeng's laws, flooded into Lin Feng's mind, the most direct contact. Lin Feng did not know if it was because he had swept through the Yuan Venerate investiture of the gods. Although comprehending a level 9 Hongmeng nomological law would not bring about an immediate increase in strength, it was enough to raise Lin Feng's attainments in the Hongmeng Dao and elevate his cultivation level. This was what Lin Feng needed the most. Although Lin Feng had comprehended the Tai Chi Hongmeng nomological law, he could not even be considered a beginner. Lin Feng had already come into contact with many of the 7 level 9 Hongmeng nomological laws: life, death, eternity, destruction, Tai Chi, nothingness, and, of course, unfortunately, he had never truly set foot in them. Now that his strength and cultivation level were not bad, it was time for him to comprehend them. The reward for comprehending Hongmeng nomological laws was direct comprehension of the mysteries of all the nomological laws. As for how much one could accept and comprehend, it depended on one's comprehension and luck. However, even if one could not reach the beginner level, one could still roughly browse through the mysteries of the nomological laws. This would still be of great help to one's cultivation of level 9 Hongmeng nomological laws. If one could comprehend them, they would not take any detours and would reach the peak of the great Tao. This is, of course, autonomy, of course, the very complicated and realistic level 9 Hongmeng nomological laws were no different from nothingness. Of course, represented one's existence and one's self, just like everything around one's body. From the minute details, one could comprehend the entire world, the entire universe, everything, and even oneself. Lin Feng's comprehension followed the principle of unobstructed comprehension and did not miss anything. Even if there were many things that he could not understand, at least he would leave behind an impression that would allow him to comprehend them more smoothly in the future. This was because such an opportunity was hard to come by. Looking at the overall situation of Hongmeng nomological laws was far more important than comprehending a part of them and reaching the beginner level first. Lin Feng did not seek to rapidly increase his strength. However, with his comprehension and his current cultivation level, even if it was just a rough comprehension, he would be able to quickly reach the beginner level of level 9 Hongmeng nomological laws, of course. At this moment, he had only comprehended a small part of the mysteries. The level 9 Hongmeng nomological laws, of course, was very suitable for Lin Feng, even more so than Tai Chi reaching the beginner level was just the beginning. Lin Feng's comprehension was not bad, and after transforming into the Hongmeng dimensional body, his level had increased by a lot. In addition, his understanding of the mysteries of course became clearer and clearer, and his comprehension increased. At the final moment when the reward was completed, all the comprehensions fused into his body and produced a fundamental change. Level 9 Hongmeng Nomological Laws. Of course, of course, of course. Phew! Lin Feng breathed a sigh of relief and was very satisfied. All the comprehensions were still clearly imprinted in his heart and would not dissipate. Reaching the beginner level of Level 9 Hongmeng Nomological Laws was only a rough comprehension. He believed that with enough time to digest the mysteries in his heart, it would only be a matter of time before he reached the peak. My luck is not bad. Lin Feng smiled with satisfaction. His luck had finally shown. This reward was much better than the Hongmeng source item. Strike while the iron is hot. Second one. Lin Feng immediately went to Xian Sui's God-sealing realm to choose his reward. Similarly, he had to choose 1 out of 3 rewards. Similarly, without hesitation, Lin Feng chose the cultivation reward on the far right. This was because the other 2 rewards were not very useful to him at this moment. Unlike Shi Yuan, the Xian Sui was a world lord who cultivated the Tao of course. Lin Feng smiled helplessly. As expected, fortune did not come in pairs. The reward just now had already used up all his good luck. The Xian Sui's cultivation treasure was a secret technique of explosive power, and it was only at the legendary level. What was the point of him wanting a secret technique of explosive power? He already had the reverse mind secret technique. If he used 2 at the same time, the effects would not stack. Moreover, this legendary level secret technique's effects were not as good as the reverse mind secret technique. It was most suitable for experts who had reached the indestructible Hongmeng body. Although his physical strength was not inferior to the indestructible Hongmeng body, he was still a mental cultivator. The reverse mind secret technique was more suitable. Last one left. Lin Feng kept the secret technique and did not care too much. There was always good and bad luck. These were just icing on the cake. It would be great if he had it, but it did not matter if he did not have it. One's own strength was the most important thing. Furthermore, even if he only obtained the comprehension of the level 9 Hongmeng Nomological Law, self, out of the 3 rewards, he would have already profited greatly. He would not force it. Everything was arranged for the best. The Myriad Bone Emperor's Reward. The strongest person on the Yuan Venerate Investiture God list. This was a record that no one had ever beaten. Not only had Lin Feng created this record, but only Lin Feng had the right to draw the Myriad Bone Emperor's Reward. Whoosh! Lin Feng extended his hand without hesitation and placed it on the far right once again. Cultivation Reward. Chapter 32:32. The Myriad Bones Emperor had many treasures, each of which was at the level of a Hongmeng sovereign source item, especially the white bone armor, which was almost at the peak of a Hongmeng sovereign source item. It was not much weaker than the strongest Hongmeng sovereign source item. If he chose treasures, he could get at least 1 Hongmeng sovereign source item. If he was lucky, he could even get a full set of white bone armor. However, this set of armor was a little ugly. But Lin Feng still chose cultivation treasures. The upper limit of this option was higher, and it was the only option that could improve his basic abilities. However, whether it was useful or not depended on his luck. The primogenitor's reward was very generous. Lin Feng urgently needed the enlightenment of the rank 9 Hongmeng Law. Self. Ixin Sui's reward was of little value. The Myriad Bone Great Emperor's attainments in the primordial laws were ordinary. Even if he obtained this reward, he would probably only be able to enter the path of level 8 primordial laws. It was truly ordinary. What he was most proud of was the Myriad Bone Star Steps, an origin grade secret technique. This was also what Lin Feng wanted. He had just entered the origin level and had created the 4th move in his battle with the Myriad Bones Emperor. However, it was more of an imitation of the Invincible Fist technique's realm and not something of his own. Strictly speaking, the realm was still a legend. If he could really come into contact with a source-level absolute art, it would be of great benefit to his cultivation. Next was the Myriad Bones Emperor's spear technique. Although it had not reached the source level, it was at the limit of the legendary level. Moreover, the weapon itself had many similarities. If he could obtain the essence of the Myriad Bones Emperor's spear technique, it would also be of great benefit to perfecting and creating a new saber technique. However, things often went against one's wishes. Wow! The moment he received the reward, Lin Feng let out a sigh of relief. It was not the most direct enlightenment he wanted, but a thick book of secret techniques. His good luck seemed to have been used up in the primogenitor's reward. The Myriad Bones Emperor's primogenitor's reward was neither a source-level absolute art nor a legendary limit spear technique. By * Smooth Heart Sutra, Lin Feng looked at the secret technique book in his hand and was stunned for a moment. Is it from the Xian series again? He had already obtained 2 secret techniques of the Bai series. One was the by * Defying Heart technique, and the other was the by * Weapon Condensation technique. The former allowed him to cultivate the Defying Heart technique to perfection. The latter was almost useless when he obtained it previously, but now it had the potential to increase his strength. However, in the 2 secret techniques, there was no mention of qi. Apart from the name of the secret technique, there was nothing else. Mysterious, yet powerful. What is it? An expert? Or a force? What does it have to do with the Twin Towers of Hongmeng? Does it have something to do with the resonance of virile at its core? Lin Feng was very curious. There was only one word difference between the heart compliance technique and the heart defiance technique, and they seemed to be of the same kind. Could it be that they were also mental cultivation techniques? If that was the case, wouldn't it be useless? It was impossible for him to cultivate another mental cultivation technique, and the 2 techniques could not overlap. Flipping open the heart compliance technique, Lin Feng smiled bitterly and helplessly. After casually skimming through a few lines, he had a rough idea. Just as he had guessed, it was indeed a mental cultivation technique. It seemed that this qi had a lot to do with mental cultivation. Flipping through the pages, the bitter smile on Lin Feng's face slowly disappeared and turned serious. It was not as he had imagined. The heart compliance technique was a mental cultivation technique, but it was a completely different system from the heart defiance technique. The heart defiance technique burned one's will, causing the mental cultivator to enter a special state. From there, one's mental cultivation ability would be greatly improved, and one's foundation would be strengthened. To a certain extent, it was somewhat similar to the Nether entering Nether of the Nether clan. The heart compliance technique did not strengthen one's foundation. Instead, it calmed one's will and allowed one's will to enter an ethereal state. It was the exact opposite of the heart defiance technique. It did not improve one's foundation, but one's realm. With one's body as the source, one followed one's heart and sublimated one's realm. Whether it was the heart compliance technique or heart compliance technique, the key was one's mental cultivation ability and willpower. The higher the mental cultivation attainment, the stronger the willpower and the better the effect. In terms of combat, the effect is almost the same after cultivating it to perfection. It's just that they can't be used at the same time. Lin Feng was quite satisfied with the heart compliance technique. It was a mental cultivation technique that was not inferior to the heart defiance technique at all. The focus of the 2 was different. One was to strengthen one's foundation, and the other was to strengthen one's realm. It was impossible to use them at the same time. After all, one needed to burn one's will, and the other needed to calm one's will. They were 2 extremes. It was impossible for him to have 2 wills. Even if he forced himself to use them at the same time, the effect would be greatly reduced. However, the heart compliance technique was better than the heart defiance technique in another aspect. When he was cultivating, he could also use the heart compliance technique to improve his realm. Whether it was comprehending the Hongmeng laws or creating stronger saber moves, it would be twice the result with half the effort. No, at the current combat level, the effect of the 2 might be similar, but the higher the realm, the greater the increase in combat power than the physical foundation. For example, the Myriad Bones Emperor Spear moves had reached the peak of the legendary level. However, if he used the heart compliance technique, as long as his will was strong enough, it was very likely to break through the legendary level and reach the origin level. This was a great leap in strength, not just an ordinary increase like the physical foundation. Moreover, the heart compliance technique had other uses in battle, such as calming one's mind, improving one's combat state, breaking illusions, and so on. Although Lin Feng did not need these too much, when he thought about it carefully, the heart compliance technique was superior to the heart compliance technique. With this heart compliance technique, I believe that the fourth move I used in the battle with the Myriad Bones Emperor will soon be perfect. After cultivating the heart defiance technique, Lin Feng could completely estimate how strong he would be after reaching the great perfection of the heart compliance technique. It was exactly what he needed at the moment. Of the 3 apotheosized rewards, one was an unexpected surprise, one was not of much use, and one was quite satisfactory. This result was very good. However, whether it was the comprehension of the rank 9 Hongmeng Law Self or the cultivation of the heart compliance technique, they were not in a hurry. Including the refining of the blue frost fairy dust lake, these would not increase his strength in a short time. The attacks of a Netherkill clan were like waves, one after another. Danger lurked everywhere, and the dimensional passage was an imminent danger. Lin Feng did not have time to waste. Climb the Hongmeng Twin Towers. This was the plan that Lin Feng had set. He would immediately carry out this plan after the investiture of the gods, and it would not take too much time. After climbing the Hongmeng Twin Towers, he could leave the Hongmeng world and carry out the last step. Seize the will of the heavenly axiom. Become a powerful person. Chapter 32-33. The Hongmeng Dual Pole Tower towered into the sky with a total of 21 levels. Mysterious, unknown, and powerful. It was said that no cultivator had ever reached the top, including world masters. It's normal for a being that resonates with virile and has a history longer than the Hongmeng Sea to be unable to reach the top. Lin Feng now knew a lot about the Hongmeng Dual Pole Tower. He had seen the true body and even resonated with it, but he still couldn't get close to the real Hongmeng Dual Pole Tower. One could imagine how powerful it was. I wonder which level Senior Lonely Glory has reached. For the 5 World Masters stopped at the 18th level, and only Primal Chaos Dao Lord reached the 19th level. Lin Feng could roughly guess the strength required. The 18th level of the Hongmeng Dual Pole Tower required the combat power of a World Master. The 19th level of the Hongmeng Dual Pole Tower required the combat power of the strongest World Master. If he guessed correctly, the 20th level of the Hongmeng Dual Pole Tower required the combat power of the strongest World Master. It's most likely the 20th level. Lin Feng could vaguely feel that if a cultivator could reach the top of the 21st floor, something would happen, or something big would happen. But until now, the Hongmeng Dual Pole Tower hadn't changed at all. Let's start. Lin Feng first went to Mengji Tower because he was better at Mengji Tower. He had less confidence in Hongji Tower. Mengji Tower first would give him a rough idea of the difficulty. The 17th level. The guardian of the tower was a wild beast. It was born with a powerful body and incredible talent. It reached the ultimate universe master level, which seemed to be the limit of the Hongmeng Sea. Lin Feng didn't even need to use Defying Heart. He finished the battle with a single slash. Too weak. Its combat power was only at the level of Pope. It couldn't withstand a single blow. The 18th level. The strength of the guardian of this level was not to be underestimated. His physical body was the same as the Myriad Bones Emperor's, reaching the indestructible Hongmeng body. This was difficult to find even among the 5 Great World Masters, because the 5 Great World Masters mostly walked the path of Hongmeng. The indestructible Hongmeng body was very powerful. However, Lin Feng's Hongmeng dimensional physique was even stronger. Lin Feng still didn't use the heart-defying secret technique. Relying on the uniqueness and strength of the Hongmeng dimensional physique, Lin Feng quickly killed the Tower Guardian. There was no need to prove his tyrannical strength. Lin Feng had indeed reached the level of a world lord. In fact, he might even be stronger. Level 19. The true challenge was the strength of the strongest world lord. This was a heart cultivator. He had a Hongmeng golden body at the limit. Golden airflow flowed, and his will was boundless. His cultivation level was high, and he was somewhat similar to the Chaos Tao Lord. Fighting him was like fighting a Chaos Tao Lord. They were evenly matched. Unfortunately, the Menji Tower had a great advantage against cultivators with higher attainments in the Menji Dao. No matter how strong the Hongmeng golden body was, there was a limit to its energy saturation. It couldn't be compared to the Hongmeng origin body. Furthermore, Lin Feng didn't have an ordinary Hongmeng origin body, but the Hongmeng dimensional physique. It was a carefree battle. Lin Feng used the heart-defying secret technique and defeated the Tower Guardian with overwhelming strength, stepping into the 20th level. Crazy! While the cultivators were still immersed in the thrill of Lin Feng sweeping through the Yuan Venerate investiture of the gods, they were once again stunned by the series of records. The 20th level of the Hongmeng Dual Pole Tower had been reached. What did this mean? Lin Feng had become an existence on par with the Chaos Tao, lord among the 5 great world lords. Even the other 4 great world lords hadn't been able to complete the feat of ascending the tower. Lin Feng had easily ascended the tower as a Yuan Venerate and was now challenging the Tower Guardian of the 20th level. If he succeeded, he would even surpass the Chaos Tao Lord. It was too shocking. That's impossible. If Lin Feng can ascend to the 20th level, wouldn't he become the number 1 person in the Hongmeng Ocean? Please, even if he doesn't ascend to the 20th level, Lin Feng is already on par with the Chaos Tao Lord. Once he breaks through to become an almighty, surpassing the Chaos Tao Lord will be a certainty. Is there need to think about it? Lin Feng is already the number 1 person in the Hongmeng Ocean. He'll amaze the world with a single brilliant feat. The Hongmeng Ocean is going to change. The cultivators of the various chaotic universes couldn't help but sigh. The younger generation would surpass them in time. They had witnessed this miracle with their own eyes. Lin Feng had swept through the investiture of the gods in an invincible manner and ascended to the top of the Hongmeng Dual Pole Tower step by step. All sorts of feelings of admiration, reverence, and awe filled their hearts. At this moment, Lin Feng was also engaged in a bitter battle. The guardian of the 20th level, the strongest world lord, was the only person in the Hongmeng Ocean who had set foot on this level. He had almost reached the limit of the Tao of Meng. At the same time, he had the indestructible Hongmeng body and the indestructible Hongmeng soul. This was a guardian with no weaknesses at all. His strength wasn't inferior to the Myriad Bones Emperor's at all. Because the Myriad Bones Emperor cultivated both, the difference between the Tao of Meng and the Tao of Hongmeng wasn't that great. However, this was the Meng Jita Tower. The guardian's strength was unconventional and focused on the Tao of Meng, so it was natural that he was stronger than the Myriad Bones Emperor. However, at the same time, Lin Feng was stronger in the battle at Meng Jita than he had been in the battle with the Myriad Bones Emperor. The advantage of the Tao of Meng and the physical body was magnified. Lin Feng's primordial dimensional body was also at the limit of the Tao of Meng, or even beyond it. Boom! After a fierce battle, Viral suppressed the guardian and finally killed him. Ding! A gentle sound rang in his mind, and Lin Feng's eyes lit up. It was too familiar. It was the same when he first obtained the Dominator's suit. Sure enough, on the 20th floor of the Meng Jita Tower, there was a suit of battle armor that contained abundant Hongmeng energy. It was exactly the same as the Dominator's suit, but the material was slightly different and the energy was stronger. The Lord of the World's suit. Phew! Lin Feng let out a long sigh. This battle was obviously much more difficult than the 19th floor. Whoosh! The light in front of him suddenly changed, and Lin Feng's heart was suddenly touched. It came from the unknown dome, the 21st floor of the Hongmeng Bipolar Tower. Stepping on the 20th floor of the tower, he was closer to the core secret than the 19th floor. 21st floor. Lin Feng absorbed the majestic energy in the Hongmeng Bipolar Tower and quickly recovered his consumed strength. He directly put on the Lord of the World suit and changed out of the Dominator suit. The rewards of the Hongmeng Bipolar Tower were generally very good. Especially this was obtained by defeating the Guardian of the 20th floor. Even if 5 World Lords didn't have it. The energy is slightly inferior to the white bone armor of the 10,000 Bones Emperor. However, it has reached the level of the Hongmeng Source item, and it is a complete set that can automatically repair itself. He stretched his body. The armor was very fitting. It could perfectly fit his Hongmeng Virile, providing stronger defense. This was very important. After all, his own energy had a considerable effect on the enhancement of the armor set. It's about time. Let's try challenging the 21st floor Guardian. Lin Feng really wanted to know what was above the dome of the Hongmeng Bipolar Tower. What secrets did the Hongmeng Bipolar Tower hide? Chapter 32-34. Level 20. Crazy. He's really crazy. How many eras has it been since a cultivator stepped in a level 20? Lin Feng is going to scare people to death. He can't be so perverted that he can reach the top in one go, right? What kind of joke is this? Since ancient times, has a cultivator reached level 21 of the Hongmeng Dual Polarity Tower? That's simply impossible. Even ascending to the 20th level is unimaginable. None of the 5 World Lords have ever succeeded. The experts of the Hongmeng Sea discussed fervently. When Lin Feng reached level 21, the entire Hongmeng Sea was in an uproar. To Lin Feng, level 20 might not be much, but to the experts of the Hongmeng Sea, level 20 was like a benchmark. Not only could they obtain the highest level of World Lord equipment of the Hongmeng Dual Polarity Tower, but it also represented the highest level of glory and battle strength. The strongest World Lord. In order to defeat the Guardian of level 20, one's battle strength had to reach the level of the strongest World Lord, which could be considered the strongest in the Hongmeng Sea. Even the leader of the 5 World Lords, the Tao Lord of Primal Chaos, couldn't do it. But Lin Feng did it. And now, he was in an intense battle with the Guardian of level 21. Hongmeng Origin Body. In this round, Lin Feng was up against a Guardian with a pure Hongmeng Origin Body. It was different from Lin Feng's mutated Hongmeng Origin Body. Not only did the Guardian have a perfect Hongmeng Origin Body, but it had also cultivated to the limit, and its energy was completely saturated. The difference was huge. Although Lin Feng's Hongmeng dimensional body was very strong, it was like a newborn baby. It was far from the final form of the Hongmeng Origin Body. This was a power that could be cultivated to the peak of the strongest World Lord, and it was much stronger than the Hongmeng Metal Body. Amazing. Lin Feng was at a complete disadvantage. Although he had a sliver of virile to defend himself, the energy of Hongmeng's body was suppressed in all aspects, including the physical quality of the Tower Guardian, which was far superior to Lin Feng's reverse mind. Just as Lin Feng had predicted, this was a battle with no hope of victory. However, at least he knew the strength of the Tower Guardian. Bang! Lin Feng was once again repelled, and Virile could not resist the complete suppression of power. In Mengji Tower, the attainments and cultivation of Mengji would be greatly amplified. Gently wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, Lin Feng smiled and withdrew from the battle. While with a flash of light, Lin Feng left Mengji Tower. The challenge failed. There was no point in continuing to fight, as he was no match for the Tower Guardian. Very soon, I will challenge you again. Ascending the Hongmeng Dual Polarity Tower had no restrictions on strength. Although the Tower Guard was strong, Lin Feng was confident that he could beat him as long as he had broken through to become a powerful being. At that time, his abilities in all aspects would be greatly improved. The secret of Hongmeng Dual Polarity Tower will be revealed soon. Lin Feng left Mengji Tower and headed to the Hongji Tower on the other side. With the experience of ascending Mengji Tower, Lin Feng had a rough idea of how to ascend Hongji Tower. 17th floor. 18th floor. Lin Feng stepped on it step by step. The key to ascending the Hongji Tower was the comprehension and realm of Hongmeng's laws. For Hongmeng's laws, Lin Feng's strongest was the Mountain Core World Incarnation, which could unleash the power of a rank 8 Hongmeng Law Paragon. As for the rank 9 Hongmeng Law, whether it was Tai Chi or Self, Lin Feng did not have much comprehension of them. Although he had mastered the rank 9 Hongmeng Law Self, he did not have any secret techniques or treasures that could unleash its power. However, in terms of realm, Lin Feng was more proficient than Hongmeng Law Paragon. The dark murdering blade art could be said to be one step at a time. First, it was the dark murdering energy breaker, then the dark slaying true simplicity, then the Tai Chi legendary Tai Chi, and finally the fourth blade that defeated the Myriad Bones Emperor. It was still unnamed and incomplete, but its realm had already reached the origin grade. It was close to the sublimit. Lin Feng was defeated by the Guardian of the 19th floor, unable to advance any further. However, the record of the 18th floor of the Hongji Tower was comparable to other world lords. Of course, it was still far from the results of Mengji Tower. Just a little bit more. Lin Feng was only defeated, but he was already very satisfied with reaching the 18th floor. He still had a secret technique that could increase his realm, the Sutra of Smooth Heart. Once he cultivated it to Paragon, breaking through the 19th floor would be easy. He might even reach the 20th floor. It's time to take the final step. Lin Feng left the Hongmeng world. He had been waiting for this day for a long time. Mengji Tower, 20th floor. Hongji Tower, 18th floor. Lin Feng's impressive record left all the cultivators dumbfounded. He had swept through the Hongmeng dual polarity pagoda as a Yuan venerate without any weaknesses. The 18th floor of the Hongji Tower was already the strength of a world lord, the same level as the 5 world lords. As for the 20th floor of the Mengji Tower, it was even more demonic. Who could compare to him in the entire Hongmeng Sea? I'm afraid it won't be easy to enter the first origin chaotic universe of the Hongmeng Sea in the future. Yes, even if the primal Chaos Tao Lord and the 1,000 Blood Empress work together, they might not be Lin Feng's match, let alone the Taichu and Fanzu. The Taichu has finally risen. To think that they relied on a worthless human cultivator to make a comeback. I really didn't expect this. When will our origin chaotic universe produce a Lin Feng? For most cultivators, being able to see their own origin chaotic universe was already good enough. Being able to know about the other origin chaotic universes of the Hongmeng Sea was already considered a powerhouse. For example, the Taisher origin chaotic universe, the Hongmeng dual polarity pagoda area, and the dimensional passageway were basically high-end secrets that few people knew about. The Hongmeng Sea was a competition of strength. The Hongmeng dual polarity pagoda was the most direct place to determine one's strength. Lin Feng's strength surpassed that of the 5 world lords. There was no doubt that he was number 1 in the hearts of all the cultivators. Even the powerhouses of the Great Change origin chaotic universe couldn't refute this. This was because the primal Chaos Tao Lord had indeed stopped at the 19th floor. He was 1 floor lower than Lin Feng. The difference of 1 floor in the Hongmeng dual polarity pagoda was already a lot. In fact, even if Lin Feng couldn't win against the primal Chaos Tao Lord, he could still suppress him and gain the upper hand. Being number 1 in the Hongmeng Sea wasn't too outrageous. Of course, there was another powerhouse that had to be eliminated. A transcendent existence who had sealed off an entire origin chaotic universe and was separated from the Hongmeng Sea. Gu Huang. He stood alone in front of the primordial twin polarities pagoda, holding the Emperor's sword in his hand. His sharpness was on full display, and an invisible, intense killing intent emanated from him. It had completely fused with his will, and the level 9 primordial law of destruction revolved around his body, following him like a shadow. It was as if he was born naturally. The 20th floor? Gu Huang's eyes were indifferent. He was wearing a full set of World Lord armor. Countless epochs ago, he had already reached the 20th floor of the Hongmeng dual polarity pagoda. Furthermore, he had reached the 20th floor of both Hongmeng Tower and Mengji Tower. It is time to advance. Gu Huang stepped into the final floor of Hongmengji Tower. The 21st floor. Bookhouse Reading Website. Chapter 32-35. The Taichu Origin Chaotic Universe. The Taichu Inquisition. The 3 Guardian Palaces stood like stars. Below them were endless Hongmeng purple mist. 13 equally huge order palaces sat on the spiral staircase and were guarded by 13 order masters. At this moment, the 13 order masters were shocked and their bodies were trembling. The Taichu Inquisition had welcomed an uninvited guest. Lin Feng, walking alone. His second brother, Shi Wanli, did not accompany him because there was no need. Given Lin Feng's current strength, he could enter any area of the Taichu. Even Fan Zhu could not stop him, let alone the Taichu Inquisition. You can't come in. The Jade Dragon Order Master's voice was sharp and cracked. The Jade Dragon Order Master stood guard in front of the First Order Palace and felt a chill run down his spine. The other 12 Order Palaces did not have any effect at all. The 3 Guardian Palaces above did not move at all. Who was this inconspicuous human in front of him? How could the Jade Dragon Order Master not recognize him? The number 1 enemy of the Taichu Inquisition, Lin Feng. The monster who had just swept through the Yuan Venerate Investiture of the Gods and broke the record of the Ancient Era, the 18th level of the Hongji Pagoda, and the 20th level of the Mengji Pagoda. Such an existence had graced his order palace with his presence. He was panicking. What else could he do apart from shouting to boost his courage? Could it be that he was going to attack Lin Feng? The other 12 Order Masters would probably build a grave for him immediately. If he died, he would probably be mocked for overestimating himself. A mantis trying to stop a chariot was not enough to describe such a battle. He and Lin Feng were not on the same level at all. Even if he was a Universe Master and Lin Feng was just a Yuan Venerate. However, this Yuan Venerate was too terrifying. I'm coming in. Lin Feng smiled and walked past the Jade Dragon Order Master. The latter's body trembled and his eyes widened as he watched Lin Feng walk past him. He was petrified and didn't dare to move an inch. The Order Palace, which symbolized the dignity and status of the Order Maintainer, allowed Lin Feng to enter and pass through. The Jade Dragon Order Maintainer's face was pale. He didn't even dare to look at it, afraid that he would say something wrong and anger Lin Feng. He couldn't bear the consequences. He's finally here. The guardian of the Second Order Palace was Beacon City's Order Maintainer. He had met Lin Feng before. Archie, the Master of Order, and the Master of Ice Order were the first to be sent to deal with Lin Feng. However, the 3 of them were terrified at the time and lied about the military situation, allowing the Drunken Guardian God to deal with Lin Feng in the end. In the end, the Drunken Guardian God lost miserably. The past was unbearable to recall. Lin Feng's figure gradually appeared in front of him. Beacon City's Order Maintainer stood in front of the Order Palace with a blank expression, but he couldn't hide the helplessness and sorrow in his heart. He had long known that this day would come, and had also guessed what the outcome of the Taichu Inquisition would be. Back then, the Drunken Guardian God couldn't deal with Lin Feng. After that, Pope also couldn't kill Lin Feng. In fact, the outcome was already very clear. The Taichu Inquisition had been struggling at death's door for so long and had already reached its limit. Whoosh! Lin Feng directly walked past Beacon City's Order Maintainer. The latter's reaction was no different from Jade Dragon Order Maintainers. He didn't stop Lin Feng, nor did he try to stop him. A wise man submits to circumstances. They weren't blindly loyal to the Taichu Inquisition. In comparison, their own lives were more important. They all had their own personalities. Some Order Maintainers were afraid, so afraid that they even gave up on their dignity. However, some Order Maintainers would rather die than submit to Lin Feng's tyrannical power. For example, the 3rd and 4th Order Palaces. The 2 Order Maintainers' eyes were red as they erupted with their strongest strength to stop Lin Feng from entering. Unfortunately, they were like moths to a flame. Their heroic deaths didn't even cause a splash. They were all insta-killed. Lin Feng ascended the 13th Order Palace. Lin Feng didn't show any mercy after killing the 4 Order Maintainers. This was their choice, their dignity. Since that was the case, he would fulfill their wishes. They were all enemies, not friends. As for those Order Maintainers who didn't dare to make a move, there was no need to kill them all. They had already stopped resisting, so it would be too much to make a move. Lin Feng wouldn't go so far as to bully the weak. The three guardian palaces stood proudly. The three colors of red, blue, and yellow gathered at the peak of the sky. In the depths of the purple mist, a huge power could be faintly seen. It was high and mighty. Pope's Soul. This was the highest point of the Taichu Inquisition. It was also the area closest to the Taichu's core. Lin Feng naturally didn't come to the Taichu Inquisition to kill them all. Instead, he prepared to directly enter the Taichu's core and complete his plan. Possession. Drunken, you won't come out? Lin Feng smiled at the drunken guardian palace. He wantonly spread out his will. He had already sensed that the drunken guardian palace was among the three guardian palaces. As for the sword killer palace and the candlelight guardian palace, they weren't here. Even on Pope's Soul, there was no aura of the Pope. They should be in the dimensional passage and hadn't returned yet. However, even if they returned, it would be useless. You really won't come out? Lin Feng shouted softly. He smiled and said, Then I'll leave? Just as he was about to leave, Lin Feng suddenly stopped. He was slightly surprised. His gaze fell on the drunken guardian palace. The spread of his will couldn't penetrate one of the array restrictions in the guardian palace. It seemed to be hiding some secret. Shua. Lin Feng directly entered the drunken guardian palace. Lin Feng. The drunken guardian palace's face was filled with shock. He staggered back, looking at the person in front of him in shock. It was the monster Lin Feng who had suddenly appeared in front of him. He knew that Lin Feng's strength was far beyond the Pope's level. As for him, he couldn't compare to Lin Feng at all. Lin Feng didn't look at the drunken guardian palace. Instead, he stared at the back of the guardian palace. There was a huge triangle with an abnormally dense aura of primal chaos. The restriction engravings on it were clearly visible. Although he couldn't see what was hidden within, the energy fluctuations were especially intense. A seal? What kind of seal is this? Lin Feng looked at the drunken guardian palace. The latter's face was pale, and he didn't say a word. Lin Feng was very curious about a seal that even manifested wills couldn't penetrate. Faintly, there seemed to be something in this huge, triangular seal that made him want to break open and see what it was. Why are you panicking? You must have done something shameful. Lin Feng took out his battle saber, Snow Jewel. Hongming Viral instantly struck the triangular seal, and the primal chaos array shook violently. There seemed to be a strong energy fluctuation inside, as if a ferocious tiger had been sealed. Boom! Lin Feng's saber broke open the seal. At that moment, the fluctuation in his heart was especially intense. He didn't see the primal chaos mist or what was sealed, but he could clearly sense the manifested wills. That was his own manifested will. When Xian Dao Master, Lin Feng was surprised and happy. The primal chaos mist slowly dispersed. His brows were slightly furrowed, and his face was pale. Wasn't that when Xian Dao Master? Lin Feng? When Xian Dao Master was also shocked. Chapter 32-36. It has nothing to do with me, nothing to do with me. Seeing that Lin Feng was looking at him, the drunken guardian deity waved his hands and shook his head like a rattledrum. What a joke! If he was to be blamed for this, dying 10,000 times would not be enough. Lin Feng only glanced at the drunken guardian deity. When Xian Holy Man said slowly, I was imprisoned by the Pope in the dimensional passage. The assassin sword and the candlelight guardian deity also attacked me. I was not their match. I understand. Lin Feng nodded. Did it affect you? When Xian Holy Man asked with concern. A little. Lin Feng smiled. He did not care that much. In the dimensional space, for nearly 20 years, it was a blessing in disguise. That's good. Seeing that Lin Feng was standing in front of him safe and sound, when Xian Holy Man was relieved. When he was trapped in the chaos formation, he was not most worried about himself. He was worried that Lin Feng would be lost in the dimensional space if he could not sense the will of manifestation. Now, it seemed that he was not in danger. By the way, how did Brother Lin know that I was trapped here? When Xian Holy Man asked curiously. I just happened to stumble upon it by accident. Lin Feng smiled and glanced at the drunken guardian deity. I came to the Taichu Inquisition because I have something to do. Something to do? When Exine Holy Man looked at Lin Feng with his wise eyes and nodded gently. Although Lin Feng did not say it, he knew that Lin Feng wanted to possess the will of the heavenly way of the Taichu origin chaos universe. It was no secret in the dimensional passage. For this reason, the Pope attacked Lin Feng at all costs to stop him. Once Lin Feng possessed the will of the heavenly way, it meant that the Taichu origin chaos universe was under his control. Taichu was about to undergo a great change. However, even Fan Zhu did not stop him. Military God, Dao Yin Palace Master, Egio, and the other leaders did not express their opinions. When Exine Holy Man would not meddle in other people's business, not to mention that he and Lin Feng were comrades and friends. With one Exine Dao Master's strength, he had long left the Taichu origin chaos universe, and so had the other universe masters. With their strength, they could go anywhere, but cultivating in the Taichu would be slow. Indeed, Lin Feng's possession of the Taichu's origin chaos universe would have a great impact on the other Taichu experts, but not on the high-level Taichu experts. Of course, the Taichu Inquisition was an exception. Then I wish Brother Lin success. When Exine Dao Master nodded slightly. Don't worry, nothing will change. Lin Feng did not intend to transform the Taichu origin chaos universe into what he wanted. Like the Milky Way, it would remain the same after possession. In this regard, Lin Feng did not have the slightest ambition. That's the best. When Exine Holy Man smiled. If there's nothing else, I'll go back to the dimensional passage first. Okay, see you then. Lin Feng said goodbye to one Exine Holy Man, and the latter left quickly, ignoring the drunken guardian god. Although he was under house arrest, it had nothing to do with the drunken guardian god. Even Pope only put him under house arrest temporarily and did not kill him. The real hatred was between Lin Feng and the Taichu Inquisition. You can go, Lin Feng said to the drunken guardian god. Leave with the other order keepers. There will be a big change here soon. I'll give you one breath's time. If you don't leave by then, don't blame me for being merciless. His voice was calm, but it was undeniably domineering and commanding. Hearing this, the drunken guardian god left the guardian temple without any hesitation, as if he had just received amnesty, and disappeared without a trace. He was not blindly loyal. He knew how strong the human in front of him was. Killing him would be as easy as blowing off dust. The drunken guardian god naturally knew what Lin Feng wanted to do. If he stayed, he would not be a threat, but he would still be a problem. Lin Feng would not let the order keepers stay either. Not killing them was already being very merciful. Shua, shua, shua. The Taichu Inquisition was soon empty. There were only 13 order palaces left, supporting the 3 guardian temples. There seemed to be a faint light falling on the Pope's throne at the top, converging into a towering crystal pillar. Above the crystal pillar, the Pope was like a room, and the door was opening. Hua, Lin Feng entered the absolute beginning divine Inquisition's most honorable and glorious Pope's son, which symbolized glory and status. It was as if he had arrived at a starry sky, isolated from the rest of the world. This place was densely filled with primitive, chaotic energy, as if it still retained the appearance of the Hongmeng Sea when it first opened. Endless energy gathered, forming an extremely dense whirlpool door, shining brightly. Will of the heavenly Tao. Lin Feng felt a huge power from this whirlpool door. It was like a will spreading out and covering the entire Taichu origin chaotic universe. This is it. Ta! Lin Feng was bold and daring, so he directly entered the giant whirlpool. Hongmeng World, under the Hongmeng dual pole tower. From time to time, there would be cultivators entering and exiting. The topic of discussion was Lin Feng's feat of forcefully charging into the primordial dual polarity pagoda. His impressive feat of charging into the 20th level of the primordial dual polarity pagoda had become an undefeated legend that was talked about enthusiastically by everyone. At this moment, Hua, boundless light shone from the top of the dual polarity primordial pagoda. It was like the light of Buddha. Upon closer inspection, it was as if a lamp had been lit up at the top of the dual polarity pagoda. Beams of light formed a beautiful parabola, descending continuously. The cultivators under the Hongmeng dual pole tower felt refreshed, as if they were bathing in the spring breeze. A huge amount of energy spread out, and the Hongmeng dual pole tower trembled slightly, as if something had happened that made it extremely happy. What's going on? What happened to the Hongmeng dual pole tower? What light is this? It's so special, and it's so rich in energy. A miracle has descended. The cultivators who had regained their senses exclaimed. Soon, a large number of cultivators rushed over. There were countless cultivators below the Grand Mist Twin Polarity Pagoda, and all of them raised their heads to look at the Grand Mist Twin Polarity Pagoda. It's the highest level of the Hongmeng Dual Pole Tower. That's right. The 21st level of the Hongji Tower has lit up. What's going on? Could it be? Impossible. How can a cultivator pass the 21st level of the Hongji Tower? He reached the top. Finally, a cultivator reached the top. The first cultivator in the history of the Hongmeng Sea to reach the top of the 21st level of the Hongji Tower. Who is it? Who is it? There was a huge commotion. The sudden change in the Hongmeng Dual Pole Tower caused an uproar among the cultivators. A miracle that had never happened before was right in front of them. It was a sacred and powerful energy, the ultimate illumination of the laws of Hongmeng. It wasn't hard to guess what happened. Finally, a cultivator reached the top of the Hongmeng Sea. Hongji Tower, 21st level. Chapter 32-37. The Taichu Origin Chaotic Universe, the core of the whirlpool. Lin Feng was unaware of the huge changes in the outside world. Finally, a cultivator had reached the 21st level. Now, he was completely focused on himself and had no extra energy to pay attention to anything else. Possession. Lin Feng was ready to take the last step. If it was just a simple breakthrough, Lin Feng could become an almighty in the blink of an eye and become the strongest almighty in the Hongmeng Sea. His internal universe would also be quite extraordinary in all aspects. However, to truly reach the pinnacle of mind cultivation, he had to possess the Taichu's heavenly will, just like when he had possessed the Milky Way super black hole. Lin Feng should have taken possession of the seventh universe's will of the heavenly path. But now that he was stronger, it was only natural for him to take possession of the Taichu heavenly path's will. Since he was connected to both, he could take possession of both. Possession was actually very difficult, especially when it came to possessing a living heavenly will. Lin Feng had first possessed the Milky Way super black hole because it had already entered its period of destruction. Therefore, it was relatively easier. However, the Taichu's heavenly will was still in good condition and was in its prime. Lin Feng didn't just have to fight for the Taichu's origin chaotic universe. He had to completely conquer it. Materialize will. The key to possession was a contest of will. Lin Feng's control of will materialize was not inferior to Dao Wuji's. He could be considered the strongest controller of will materialize in the Hongmeng Sea. Although the heavenly will was also very strong, it was on the same level as Lin Feng. Lin Feng's will was too monstrous. Even the Taichu's will was helpless against the Yuan Venerate with such a strong will. Of course, possession wasn't just a contest of will. It also involved the strength and endurance of the physical body and perfect control of the physical body. Lin Feng was the most relaxed about this. He might have been a little worried when he had only possessed the Hongmeng golden body, but now, Lin Feng possessed the Hongmeng origin body, a mutated Hongmeng Yuan body. No matter how terrifying the Taichu's gravity was, Lin Feng could completely withstand it. Even if he didn't use the reverse heart secret technique, the foundation of Lin Feng's physical body had already surpassed the Taichu's weight and pressure. The fleshly body was the foundation of everything. The soul was the key to possession. Possession was not really becoming the will of the heavenly Tao or the Taichu's origin chaos universe. The aura of life. Back then, Lin Feng had seized the Milky Way super black hole and obtained the breath of life in the universe. His strength and cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. Not only did he have a stronger foundation and ability, But the upper limit of his cultivation was also extremely high. That was why he was able to sweep his way through as a venerable. Now, he had cultivated to the limit and swept through the Yuan Venerate's investiture of the gods to reach the 20th level of the dual polarity tower in Hongming. Of course, various opportunities and Lin Feng's own efforts played a part in this. However, he had obtained a life aura comparable to that of the universe by taking over the Milky Way super black hole. This was the most fertile land in Lin Feng's growth process, allowing him to grow recklessly. Now, he was also obtaining the breath of life in this possession. The breath of life of the highest level in the Hongmeng Sea. Unlike the first, second, and seventh sub-universes, which were all nurtured by the Taichu's origin chaos universe. The Taichu's origin chaos universe was naturally formed. It was an existence that was born along with the Hongmeng Sea. Hence, it possessed the strongest breath of life in the Hongmeng Sea. The breath of life of the origin chaos universe. Once the possession was completed, Lin Feng's internal universe would grow to the limit and reach the level of the Taichu's origin chaos universe. Coupled with his own good fortune and opportunities, it would only be a matter of time before he became the strongest powerhouse in the history of the Hongmeng Sea. Let's begin. Lin Feng did not need to prepare at all. His soul directly blasted into the core of the Taichu's origin chaos universe, where the will of the heavenly Tao was. Bright spots of light condensed, and the will of the heavenly Tao was extremely strong. Boom! In an instant, his soul shook violently, and Lin Feng's body was also crazily impacted. That was the weight of the entire Taichu. All the gravity on his body was enough to crush a universe dominator. But Lin Feng's expression did not change at all. It was easy. The core vortex contained the will of the heavenly Tao that had existed since the birth of the Taichu. It contained the incomparably vigorous primitive power of the Hongmeng Sea and the breath of life of the origin chaos universe. Sizzle. Lin Feng used the heart-defying secret art to strengthen his soul. His body also became more refined and powerful. No matter how the will of the heavenly Tao attacked his body, it could not cause any harm to his powerful body. Instead, he gradually fell into a great crisis. All the soul power and the will of the manifestation fell into the core vortex in an instant. Lin Feng's consciousness seemed to have arrived at a place of endless light and chaos. The surrounding primitive power of the Hongmeng Sea crazily attacked the soul in a futile attempt to stop Lin Feng's invasion. Unfortunately, under the Hongmeng Viral's sweeping sweep, it could not withstand a single blow. His path was smooth, and he cut through all obstacles. Although the will of the heavenly Tao wanted to stop him and resist stubbornly, facing an unprecedentedly powerful enemy, Lin Feng, it was like a tree under a storm. It was an imminent danger, an overwhelming advantage. Lin Feng's soul and the will of the manifestation crushed the Taichu's will of the heavenly Tao. It was not that the will of the heavenly Tao was weak, but that Lin Feng was too strong. Back then, when he was only a Hongmeng golden body, Lin Feng had more than 80% confidence in possessing him, let alone now. His strength was more than 100 times stronger than when he was a Hongmeng golden body. The possession was smooth sailing. What a powerful life aura. It was the brightest spot in the endless light, like the brightest star in the starry sky. The huge life aura exceeded Lin Feng's current level of life, making Lin Feng quite satisfied. After transforming into a Hongmeng dimensional body, Lin Feng's level of life had become extremely high. Originally, he was worried that the life aura of the Taichu origin chaotic universe might not be very high, but now it seemed that he had been worrying too much. This was the highest life aura in the dimensional world. Come! His soul shook, and the will of the manifestation wrapped around him. Lin Feng took the life aura of the origin chaotic universe in one fell swoop. In an instant, the Hongmeng will of the heavenly Tao descended. Lin Feng could feel the fury of the Hongmeng Sea, as if a child had been deprived of its power, lost its most precious treasure, and touched its reverse scale. Boom! 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 The will of the heavenly Tao was abnormally furious. The terrifying primordial power of the Hongmeng Sea gave the will of the heavenly Tao extreme power, like a savage beast that wanted to tear Lin Feng to pieces. Break! Lin Feng held the battle saber Snow Jade and mercilessly broke the will of the heavenly Tao's power. The origin grade saber technique, the overbearing saber technique that had defeated the myriad bones emperor, contained the unrivaled fist technique concept and was Lin Feng's current strongest saber technique. The powerful Hongmeng virile forcibly repelled the will of the heavenly Tao, and Lin Feng stood at the peak of the sky, invincible. No one could stop him, including the Hongmeng will of the heavenly Tao. Even if the strongest level 9 Hongmeng laws descended, Lin Feng was not afraid. The current him already had enough strength to intimidate the entire Taichu, and even the entire Hongmeng Sea. Chapter 32-38. This slash allowed Lin Feng to shatter all the power of the will of the heavenly way. The fury of the Hongmeng Sea seemed to vanish in this slash, and the surrounding pressure suddenly disappeared. It was as if it had given up and was unwilling to fight again. Or perhaps it had acknowledged Lin Feng's strength, and truly acknowledged Lin Feng's strength. Taichu origin. After touching the power of the core of the Hongmeng Sea, Lin Feng's slash was finally completed, and he had integrated all his insights. It was perfectly formed. Now, it was already a saber technique with an extremely high degree of completion. The only thing left was to carve it more carefully and perfectly. However, the power of the saber technique itself was generally fixed. Even if there was an improvement, it would not be an earth-shattering change. His soul and will had already gained the upper hand, and his physical body could easily contend with the power of the Taichu. Now, although the possession had just begun, it was no longer difficult for Lin Feng. In the past, he was not even sure if he could possess the will of the heavenly way of the seventh universe. Now he could even possess the will of the heavenly way of the Taichu origin chaotic universe. The Taichu Inquisition and Pope's Panic were not without reason. Today, as long as Lin Feng was alive, the success rate of the Taichu origin chaotic universe's will of the heavenly way was more than 99%. As for the remaining 1%, Lin Feng would have to seek death himself. After experiencing the mutation of the Hongmeng dimensional body in the dimensional space, Lin Feng suddenly had another idea. During the possession process, what would happen if I let the Taichu origin chaotic universe absorb virile? Not strong enough. Although the Taichu origin chaotic universe had become an internal universe, which was enough to make the world lord of the Hongmeng Sea envious, Lin Feng still felt that it was not strong enough. Even if the internal universe was perfect, it would only be comparable to the Taichu origin chaotic universe. Was it strong? In the Hongmeng Sea, it was invincible. However, in the dimensional space, Lin Feng really did not feel that it was very strong. At least compared to his Hongmeng dimensional body, such an internal universe was a full level lower. Give it a try? After thinking for a long time, Lin Feng suddenly had the urge to seek death. After seeing the power of the Netherkill clan and the vastness of the dimensional space, and then looking back at the Hongmeng Sea and Taichu origin chaotic universe, he realized that everything was nothing. This was not what he wanted. What he wanted was a bigger stage and a brighter future. If I fail, I'll just give up on the possession. I have the ability to roam the dimensional space. Even if I only become an ordinary powerful being, I might still have other opportunities and advancements. But if we succeed, we will soar to the sky. Lin Feng did not have much confidence, but he still wanted to challenge him. He had enough confidence to give it a try, and he also had a way out. Most importantly, Lin Feng had already transformed into the Hongmeng dimensional body. His body had already received virile, so virile wouldn't attack him. Absorbing virile. As long as one's internal universe could withstand the vast power of virile, there was a chance of success. Virile, would you absorb it? The Hongmeng virile in his body was naturally impossible. This wasn't a pure virile, and there wasn't enough of it. It was like passing it from one hand to the other. It was completely useless. it wouldn't have any effect on the possession or the internal universe. The true virile naturally existed in the dimensional space. Bang! The vigorous eruption of power formed a point of origin, and in an instant, the will spread out, perfectly controlled. Lin Feng's expression didn't change at all. From this, it could be seen how easy it was for him to take over this body. It was enough for him to divert his attention to other things. Construct the dimensional passageway. Lin Feng attempted to construct a dimensional passageway for the first time. Currently, he wasn't able to directly shatter the dimensional barrier of the Hongmeng Sea and come into contact with the dimensional space. However, constructing a dimensional passageway would allow him to enter the dimensional space and come into contact with the true virile. In the entire Hongmeng Sea, apart from Dao Wuji, only Lin Feng had the qualifications and strength to construct a dimensional passageway. The control of the will was extremely important. The dimensional passageway was formed by the will of the will. Not only did it have to withstand the impact of virile, but it also had to maintain the stability of the energy output and the dimensional passageway itself. Virile, it's here. Lin Feng still hadn't found a good way to construct a dimensional passageway while recovering the will of the will of the will of the will. However, there was no need for that now, because he didn't really need to construct a dimensional passageway. He only needed a bridge that connected the Taichu's chaotic universe and the dimensional space. Virile attacked the dimensional passageway and was directly drawn into the core whirlpool of the Taichu's chaotic universe by Lin Feng. Rumble, rumble. The core of the whirlpool shook violently, and the Hongmeng Sea, which had already calmed down, became furious. The laws of Hongmeng were in chaos, and energy leaked in all directions. Scared? Lin Feng smiled. He knew that there was a certain danger in luring virile into the core vortex, but he didn't have the time to care about the Hongmeng Sea. All of Lin Feng's thoughts were focused on the possession. If he didn't succeed, he would die trying. Otherwise, the possession would succeed and the universe in his body would change. Either virile would break through everything and fail the possession. Sizzle, sizzle, wisps of virils will surge into Taichu's internal universe as though ferocious and terrifying behemoths had entered. They wreaked havoc and were fearless. The Taichu's will of the heavenly Tao trembled. Not only was it overwhelmed by Lin Feng's will, but it was also dominated by virile. At this point, the Taichu's will of the heavenly Tao could not do anything. It only had two paths. It could either be possessed by Lin Feng or be destroyed by virile. With this thought, the Taichu's will of the heavenly Tao became much more obedient. If it was destroyed by virile, it would be destroyed. If it was possessed by Lin Feng, at least something would be left behind, of course. The Taichu's will of the heavenly Tao did not have any thoughts. This was just its instinctive reaction. The real two parties in this battle were no longer Lin Feng and the Taichu's will of the heavenly Tao. Instead, it was Lin Feng and virile. Not enough. Lin Feng sent virile through the dimensional passage. Although he didn't know how much virile was needed to transform and how much virile could cause the universe in his body to change, Lin Feng knew one thing. The more, the better. Now, the more virile his internal universe could carry, the more virile he would have after the transformation. After experiencing the transformation of the Hongmeng dimensional body, Lin Feng not only had virile in his body, but his adaptability to virile had also increased greatly. He also understood many key points. If it were any other cultivator, they would have been destroyed long ago if they rashly absorbed the dimensional energy. How strong was a Yuan Venerate? Could he contend with virile? How strong was his internal universe to be able to accommodate virile? In the entire Hongmeng Sea, only Lin Feng could do that. Furthermore, his internal universe was much larger than Lin Feng's body. The amount of virile needed to transform was 100 times more than the body. Lin Feng had been absorbing all this time, but still couldn't feel the opportunity to transform. Absorb again. Thanks to the Hongmeng virile, Lin Feng was able to maintain the balance of his internal universe. Gradually, the possession came to an end. The Hongmeng Sea shook violently, and the entire world seemed to be making way for Lin Feng's breakthrough. That was because Lin Feng was too terrifying. Absorbing so much virile could probably destroy the entire Tai Chu. Success or failure depended on the final moment. Boom! Chapter 32-39. It was silent. There was no sound between heaven and earth. The entire Hongmeng Sea seemed to have stopped changing. Everything stopped at that moment. However, in just a split second, the entire absolute beginning origin universe shook violently. Loud, rumbling noises reverberated throughout the universe as an enormous force swept out like a hurricane, affecting the entire absolute beginning origin universe. Hua! The energy leaked out, and the aura of the Taichu origin chaos universe changed from black to white, from nothing to something. The entire Taichu origin chaos universe seemed to be facing a catastrophe. It was very strange. The darkness was shrouded by a huge force, and it was suffocating. But in an instant, it was all empty, and peace was restored. What's going on? There's a big earthquake here, and the Taichu's energy is leaking. Me too. The light is too bright, and I can't even open my eyes. It's very noisy, as if doomsday is coming. Do you feel that the Taichu origin chaos universe is moving like a spaceship? Is it my illusion? I feel like I just traveled through time and space. The aura around me changed, and I came to a new world. Dream on? That's ridiculous. The Taichu cultivators were all affected. The number of cultivators who truly knew what had happened was not many. Basically, only the top-level great beings of the 5 major powers, as well as the drunken guardian god and the order maintainers outside the Taichu Inquisition, knew what was going on. The universe masters looked at the changes in the core whirlpool not far away, and their faces were full of shock and bitterness. The Taichu Inquisition was gone. The Taichu origin chaos universe was also gone. Their stronghold was destroyed. Their power was also greatly weakened because their connection with the Taichu will of the Great Path was cut off. The only thing to be thankful for was that they survived. Unlike the stubborn order maintainers who fought against Lin Feng, they chose to compromise and cower to save their own lives. A wise man submits to circumstances. Even if they tried their best, they couldn't resist Lin Feng. This was the reality. It's over. It's all over. Yes. The order enforcers sighed and shook their heads. No, it's a new beginning. The drunken guardian god bitterly picked up the wine jug at his waist and gulped it down. Then he laughed loudly, and his laughter was full of drunkenness and astringency. Hongmeng Sea, Taichu territory. The huge Taichu origin chaotic universe had disappeared. It suddenly evaporated and disappeared without a trace. Outside the Taichu origin chaotic universe, a group of cultivators and countless spaceships waiting to enter the Taichu origin chaotic universe were all dumbfounded. What happened? Where did the Taichu origin chaos universe go? Just a moment ago, there was a sudden violent tremor. The Taichu was so bright that nothing could be seen, and then it disappeared. The spaceship's radar target was gone. The huge Taichu origin chaotic universe in front of them was gone. Phew! In the void, Lin Feng let out a long sigh. His face was slightly pale. The Taichu origin chaotic universe was not the only Taichu origin chaotic universe in the Taichu territory. There was also the first sub-universe, the second sub-universe, the seventh sub-universe, and so on. In fact, although the Taichu origin chaotic universe was the largest, it only occupied less than 1/10,000th of the total area of the Taichu territory. I did it. Lin Feng smiled weakly. His entire body had undergone a qualitative transformation and sublimation. His life level seemed to have ascended. At this time, he was completely above the Hongmeng Sea. Because of the possession, he had absorbed the life energy of the origin chaotic universe. It was too powerful and huge. After the possession, Lin Feng had become the Taichu's new will of the heavenly Tao. Although in the end, he courted death by absorbing virile to create a change in the universe in his body. He succeeded in the end. His soul had completed the possession, and his body had withstood the gravity of the Taichu and virile. Fortunately, he had transformed into the Hongmeng dimensional body first. Otherwise, just the weight and pressure of Viral alone would have been enough to crush him. The amount of Viral absorbed into the universe in his body was more than 100 times more than the amount of Viral absorbed when the Hongmeng dimensional body transformed. My internal universe. Lin Feng looked inwardly at his body. The entire Taichu origin chaotic universe was in his internal universe. It was just enough to accommodate it. His internal universe was densely covered with wisps of Hongmeng energy and chaotic airflow. Among them, there were also wisps of powerful energy invisible to the naked eye that merged with the internal universe. Viral. Lin Feng was too familiar with it. It was exactly the same as when the Hongmeng dimensional body transformed. Viral was still very small and had merged with his internal universe. However, as his internal universe slowly expanded and took shape, Viral would become stronger and stronger. Just like his current Hongmeng Viral, the increase is more than 10 times. After completing the advancement to a powerful existence, the most direct change was the tenfold increase in strength. In addition, there were also changes to his body's intrinsic quality and a huge increase in his upper limit. Lin Feng felt that his Hongmeng dimensional body was now like a crying calf that urgently needed a huge amount of energy to nourish it. Relying on Hongmeng's energy alone was far from enough. However, Lin Feng's Hongmeng dimensional body was rather special and could absorb almost any kind of energy. There were many kinds of energy in the dimensional space. With Lin Feng's current attainments in the manifestation of willpower, he didn't even need to go to the dimensional channel. He could open up and absorb energy on his own. With the size of the dimensional space, he could have as much energy as he wanted. With the advancement of the Hongmeng dimensional body, the absorption efficiency would also greatly increase. The fleshly body, soul, and mental cultivation were the most direct sublimations. This included the transformation of the internal universe. The symbol of a powerful existence was the formation of an internal universe. This was the end and also the starting point. Once formed, it was extremely difficult to change. After becoming a universe ruler, the internal universe would sublimate once more. After becoming a world lord, the internal universe would reach the pinnacle level. And after becoming the strongest world lord, the internal universe would be as powerful as the origin chaos universe. However, Lin Feng's internal universe had already taken over the origin chaos universe. Compared to the strongest world lord, one was like a Xiantian, while the other was only a Hotian. Not to mention, Lin Feng's internal universe had mutated and contained a huge amount of Viral. Even Gu Huang's internal universe wasn't as powerful as Lin Feng's. Lin Feng's internal universe had already surpassed the level of the Hongmeng Sea. Just like his Hongmeng dimensional body, it had reached the level of dimensions. His gamble paid off. This was Lin Feng's huge gamble. To a cultivator of the Hongmeng Sea, the internal universe was extremely important. It was like the foundation, especially when Lin Feng's Hongmeng dimensional body was getting stronger. An ordinary internal universe wouldn't be able to support it. When he reached the level of a world lord, it would become an obstacle and reduce his strength. It would be the same even if Lin Feng completed the possession. But now, the mutated internal universe wouldn't hinder Lin Feng's growth. Instead, it would nourish him like fertile land, allowing him to grow without restraint. As the Viral increased in strength, the internal universe would also grow. The future was infinitely bright. Chapter 3240. Taichu, of course, did not disappear. Instead, it was completely under Lin Feng's control. Or rather, it had become one with Lin Feng, becoming part of his new internal universe. The life force of the primal chaos universe was extremely powerful, almost not inferior to the Hongmeng Sea itself. If the Hongmeng Sea was the emperor, then the primal chaos universe was the son of the emperor. There was not much difference. But in reality, after fusing with the dimensional energy, the new inner universe that transformed had already surpassed the primordial sea in all aspects. Not only was he the son of an emperor, but he was also the son of heaven. He swept through the world and was invincible. So this is what the level 9 Hongmeng Law of Nature, self, is all about. The level 9 Hongmeng Law of Nature, Tai Chi, is actually very simple. While absorbing energy and recovering the Hongmeng dimensional body, Lin Feng quickly integrated all his previous understandings. The rapid improvement of his life force caused his comprehension to increase by leaps and bounds. Especially the level 9 Hongmeng Law of Nature, self. Lin Feng had already received a complete inheritance, so comprehending it was naturally twice the result with half the effort. From small success to large success, and then to near perfection, his comprehension was like a gurgling stream, flowing naturally. As for the level 9 Hongmeng Law of Nature, Tai Chi, he quickly reached small success. Origin. At this moment, Lin Feng clearly understood what the so-called origin was. This was because the possession itself was the acquisition of the origin. The origin was the most hidden core power of the Taichu primal chaos universe. It was an existence equivalent to the level 9 Hongmeng Law of Nature. By coming into contact with the origin, one could create the ultimate power of the Hongmeng Sea. The Tao of Hongmeng. Lin Feng had previously created the Taichu origin. Although this move incorporated the Hongmeng Law of Nature, the main body was not the Hongmeng Law, but the domineering concept of invincibility. After Lin Feng comprehended and transformed it, its power had indeed reached the level of origin, but it was not the origin of the Hongmeng Sea. This move was the source of the Nether Killer clan. Therefore, Lin Feng's inability to ascend to the 19th floor of the Hongji Pagoda was mostly due to the fact that his understanding of the origins had yet to reach Hongmeng's higher limit. Creating a saber technique? No, Lin Feng didn't have such thoughts for the time being. Although his understanding of the origins had improved, the improvement was very slow. Even if he created a new saber technique, it would not be much stronger than the fourth technique, Taichu's origins. Whether it was the improvement in his understanding of the saber technique or the increase in his strength, it was next to nothing. Create the soul shock secret technique. Lin Feng's attainments and understanding of the soul were not inferior to his saber arts. The Ether Journal had laid the foundation in this area. Lin Feng himself had also created many soul attack secret techniques. This time, his soul had directly touched the origin of the Taichu, and his understanding was extremely profound. Lin Feng was confident that he could create a soul attack secret art that could reach the peak of its power. Possession was the ultimate eruption of one's soul. With Hongmeng Viral's soul attack, the power of the soul attack would be quite terrifying. The Nether Killer clan is at their strongest when they're burning their souls, and the eruption of their souls is also the strongest. However, as time passes, the burning and eruption of their souls will decrease. Once the soul attack can break the burning state of their souls, it will be a fatal blow to the Nether Killer clan. Even at their peak, as long as the soul attack secret art is strong enough, it can weaken the combat power of the Nether Killer clan. Moreover, compared to close combat, the soul attack secret art is much more effective in killing. The secret arts that Lin Feng had created so far were basically targeted at the Nether Killer clan. This was because the Nether Killer clan was the biggest threat in the Hongmeng Sea. If he couldn't defeat the Nether Killer clan, it would mean that the Hongmeng Sea would be conquered by the Nether Killer clan and become history. The battle in the dimensional world was realistic and cruel. To Lin Feng, defeating the Nether Killer clan was more of a challenge to himself. Battle clan? What he wanted to defeat was the Battle clan. In the third dimension passageway, led by Fan Zhu, all the Taichu experts were injured. Since Lin Feng left, the weight of Viral had been increasing, and the attacks of the Nether Killer clan had become fiercer and fiercer. Although the Taichu experts had tried their best, the difference in strength could not be overcome by willpower. The strong were strong, and the weak were weak. The Nether Killer clan was superior to the Hongmeng Sea in almost all aspects. Now, they were like lions hunting their prey and had not really used their full strength. It's finally done. Dressed in a long robe and with a long purple beard, Fan Zhu stood in the dimensional passageway. Light flashed in his eyes, and the expression on his face was very complicated. As the strongest person in the Taichu, he naturally knew what had happened and that this day would eventually come. However, when it really came, he still felt a little sad in his heart. After all, he was born and raised in the Taichu. He cultivated step by step until he became a world lord and stood at the peak of the Hongmeng Sea. To Fan Zhu, the Taichu had an important and irreplaceable position. Everything is the best arrangement of fate. If Fan Zhu wanted to stop Lin Feng, he would have done so a long time ago. However, he did not. He even helped Lin Feng block a calamity. He believed that everything that had happened was arranged by fate. Lin Feng's appearance was like this. Even if he took over the Taichu's origin universe, it would be the same. At least, the Taichu will not fall and will not be destroyed. Fan Zhu was slightly surprised, and a relieved expression appeared on his face. His gaze fell into the distance. He knew that with the strength of the Hongmeng Sea, they would not be able to resist the crazy attacks of the Nether Killer clan. Defeat was only a matter of time. No matter which dimensional passageway fell, the Hongmeng Sea would be destroyed. The strength of the Nether Killer clan was unstoppable. The only hope was that a sudden change in the dimensional space would cause the distance between the two-dimensional worlds to widen, making it impossible to maintain the dimensional passageway. Otherwise, with the strength of the Hongmeng Sea, destruction would be imminent. However, the probability of this happening was actually very small. Now that Lin Feng had taken over the Taichu's origin universe, it was equivalent to preserving the Taichu's bloodline. The existence of the Taichu moved from the Hongmeng Sea to Lin Feng's internal universe. The cultivators living in the Taichu's origin universe would not perish because of this and could still live in peace. As long as Lin Feng existed, the Taichu would exist. Even if Lin Feng died and his internal universe was not destroyed, the Taichu would not be destroyed. At most, the upper limit of the Taichu's strength would be shackled, and the energy of the Hongmeng Sea would gradually weaken. However, at least the Taichu's hope was preserved, and the future would be limitless. Fan Zhu's gaze swept across the army god, Dao Yin Palace Master, Chairman Yi Jiao, and leader Tianze. The four of them had different expressions, and it was obvious that they had all received the news, but none of them said a word. They all knew that this was the best outcome for the Taichu. The only ones with ugly expressions were Pope's group. The Taichu had been taken over, and the most direct impact was that their strength had dropped by a level. Without the Taichu's power, the Taichu Inquisition would no longer be one of the five giants. Oh, Fan Zhu looked into the distance. When Xin is back. As his voice faded, the Pope's face turned green and white. Chapter 32:41. Within the Taichu domain, where the Taichu origin chaos universe was originally located. This area was already occupied by Lin Feng. After refining the strongest Hongmeng origin item, the blue frost immortal dust lake, it had transformed into a gigantic lake billions of times larger than the Milky Way, covering the entire Taichu domain. It was truly massive. The blue frost immortal dust lake was almost 1/100th the size of the Taichu origin chaos universe. If its power was reduced, the blue frost immortal dust lake could expand even further, reaching 200th the size of the Taichu origin chaos universe. It could even reach 1/10th the size of the Taichu origin chaos universe. The lake was filled with specks of light, filled with the aura of life. Cultivating here would definitely yield twice the results with half the effort. Level 9 Hongmeng Law Life. The strongest Hongmeng origin items were all transcendent existences that were born alongside the Hongmeng Sea. They had as long a history as the origin chaos universe, and their energy was not inferior at all. There were only 3 known strongest Hongmeng origin items, including Lin Feng's blue frost immortal dust lake. Each of them had a complete level 9 Hongmeng law. Once fully grasped, one would be able to unleash the full power of the Khanate level 9 Hongmeng law, as well as its various additional abilities and effects. However, Lin Feng hadn't really polished the blue frost immortal dust lake yet. He had only barely refined it. Even so, his slight comprehension of the 9th level primordial law life had already reached the entry level, allowing Lin Feng to easily use it. The Blue Frost Immortal Dust Lake was very powerful. Even with its current strength, it was not inferior to the Sovereign Hongmeng origin items at full power. And this was only the most basic ability of the Blue Frost Immortal Dust Lake. Chaos Downlord could rely on another strongest Hongmeng origin item, the Rainbow Chaos Boat, to fight against the three strongest Hongmeng origin items. From this, one could see how powerful the strongest Hongmeng origin items were. In comparison, the 8 billion wheels formation was much weaker. However, the actual functions of the two were different. One was a domain, while the other was a formation. Furthermore, the 8 living worlds of the Million Wheels 8 front formation could all evolve unique life forms. The 100,000 miles was formed from a Million Wheels 8 front formation. The true source. The origin of Taichu. The source of the Hongmeng Sea. Possession. At this moment, Lin Feng was completely focused on comprehending the origin and combining it with the soul attack secret technique he had created. The activation of the Blue Frost Immortal Dust Lake was done at will. It created a safe area that did not want to be disturbed. After all, Lin Feng wasn't just trying to comprehend the mysteries of origin, he was also connecting his will to the dimensional passageway and absorbing the energy of the dimensional space. A new Hongmeng dimensional body required a large amount of energy. Multitasking, Lin Feng's cultivation state had already reached its limit, and he no longer had any excess mental energy. Energy breaker, true pureness, legend, origin. Lin Feng's understanding of the other three sovereigns was extremely thorough. Rather than saying that they were three different realms of power, it would be more accurate to say that they were the three basic steps of the origin level. One step after another, as his comprehension increased, he got closer and closer to the origin. The soul possession allowed Lin Feng to truly come into contact with the Taichu's origin. Through the Taichu's origin, he then came into contact with the Hongmeng Sea's origin. The mysteries of the origin were deep, vast, and boundless. Let's do this for now. Lin Feng had already sensed a deeper level of the origin, surpassing the Taichu's origin that he had possessed. It was more like the secrets of the Hongmeng Sea's origin that connected to the dimensional space. This was the true limit of the origin. The Tao of Hongmeng was where the mysteries of reaching the limit lay. Lin Feng was already very close, but he was still unable to take this step. As expected, it's still impossible to reach the heavens in a single step. Lin Feng smiled. He wanted to create a secret technique that surpassed the origin level and reached the same level as the unrivaled tyrannical concept. But it was too difficult for the current him. He could see it when he was close, but to truly obtain and master it was not an easy task. He still had a long way to go. Rather than wasting a lot of time to comprehend it, it was better to directly create the strongest origin secret technique within his current realm of comprehension. Putting up with it did not mean giving up. Sometimes, taking an extra step would shorten the distance of the next step, and it would be more natural to take the next step. In the end, there's still not enough time. Lin Feng was still worried about the battle in the dimensional passage and the Taichu experts. After all, they were comrades who had fought side by side. Lin Feng did not want to cause irreversible consequences because of his momentary cultivation. Because this was what he could do now. As long as he returned to the third dimensional passage, he would definitely be able to stop the Netherkill clan and defeat Blade Light and Sword Shadow. Even if Blade Light and Sword Shadow unleashed their extreme break, Lin Feng was confident. The current him was very strong. Everything was ready, and the only thing missing was the ultimate secret technique of origin that was the final nail in the coffin. Time passed slowly. Giving up on a higher level of comprehension that surpassed the origin, Lin Feng settled for the next best thing. Very quickly, he created the rough outline of the soul shock secret technique. However, there was still a long way to go before he could reach his current limit. The impact is not enough. The addition of Hongmeng Viral is not stable. The instantaneous explosive power is still lacking. Lin Feng sought perfection in his creation and perfected it. This was his weapon against the Netherkill clan, a complete and powerful trump card. It was also a true comprehension of the Taichu's origin. With the complete form of possession and Viral's comprehension, Lin Feng's soul shock secret technique became more and more profound. Almost. He was still a little short of true perfection and reaching the limit of the origin. Following the heart's secret technique, Lin Feng laughed involuntarily. How could he forget about this? The ascension of God's reward from the origin was extremely helpful to him, just like the defying heart's secret technique. It did not strengthen the body's basic abilities, but strengthened the realm. It was extremely helpful when comprehending Hongmeng's laws and creating secret techniques. It was not only useful in battle, but also in cultivation. Compared to the comprehension of the origins and the creation of secret techniques, cultivating the essence Smooth Heart Sutra was much simpler. In particular, the cultivation foundation of the Defying Heart Sutra allowed Lin Feng to enter a better state very quickly. The sublimation of his life force allowed Lin Feng to comprehend the essence Smooth Heart Sutra with ease. The following the heart secret technique soon reached the small success stage, and then the large success stage. It's about time. Lin Feng used the following the heart secret technique. Although it was not perfect, it calmed his will and quickly entered an ethereal state. At this moment, Lin Feng also gave up on absorbing the energy of the dimensional space and focused on creating the strongest move he had comprehended. The blue frost fairy dust lake was as calm as a painting. Specks of light shone like a paradise on earth. Time seemed to have stopped. Lin Feng's comprehension and creation reached the peak at this moment. Swoosh! His eyes shone brightly. The power of the soul shock turned into a physical entity, causing the blue frost fairy dust lake to undulate. The huge amount of soul power merged with Hongmeng Viral, causing a strong resonance with the Hongmeng Sea. Origin, the true level of the origin. This move is the beginning of my comprehension of the origin. I'll call it the origin of origin. Lin Feng floated in the air, his eyes shining. Chapter 3242. It's about time. Lin Feng let out a light sigh. The dimensional channel constructed by the will manifestation disappeared in an instant, and his connection with the dimensional space was severed. The energy of Hongmeng Viral in his body was transferred through the will, transforming into a golden will manifestation. What was formless? Will manifestation had a physical form. When combined with the formless will, one's own energy could be converted and restored. Lin Feng's own energy was all-encompassing. Although he did not have any secret cultivation techniques, he had naturally comprehended them as his life force increased. Will manifestation was a relatively high-level energy, and its conversion requirements were also high. Therefore, Lin Feng was unable to grasp it previously. The Hongmeng dimensional body had reached the second stage. Regardless of the level or quality of the energy, it was far superior to the first stage, and the conversion process was naturally successful. At this moment, Lin Feng finally understood why the 9 Hells Kings of the Netherkill clan could continuously construct dimensional channels. Well, manifestation was one of their energy sources. Since they could consume it, they could naturally absorb it and convert it. The second stage, Hongmeng Viral, is not only purer, but also 100 times more than the first stage. Lin Feng's absorption of Hongmeng Viral had already exceeded the limits of the first stage, and his body was much more saturated. One could not become fat in one bite, and absorbing too much Hongmeng Viral at once was not very useful. After all, control was the most important thing. One time the fine control of Hongmeng Viral compared to 10 times the rough control of Hongmeng Viral. The power was naturally much stronger. Viral has indeed evolved, although it was a very small increase. Lin Feng could sense that the Viral contained in the Hongmeng dimensional body was insignificant and almost invisible. Now, he could clearly sense its existence. Just like Viral in the dimensional space, it ruled over all energy. In terms of quantity, the Hongmeng dimensional body Viral was not even 1% of the internal universe. However, in terms of quality, the Hongmeng dimensional body Viral was on a higher level than the internal universe Viral. It was like a newborn Viral that was slowly growing up. Viral in his internal universe was still a newborn baby, while Viral in the Hongmeng dimensional body was already babbling and learning to walk. Viral has indeed changed because of the leap in the level of life. Lin Feng was no longer worried. The transformation of the Hongmeng dimensional body was undoubtedly a success, and the transformation of the universe in his body was bound to be a success as well. This was because the two were cut from the same cloth. Viral's growth was naturally one step at a time. Even if he grew to his limit now, his body would not be able to withstand it. One day, when he was strong enough, Viral would become like Viral in the dimensional space. He was unstoppable and invincible. In Taichu territory, the Taichu origin chaos universe is really gone. Heavens, where should I go now? How could it suddenly disappear? This is impossible. This is unrealistic. This is too strange. Can anyone tell me what happened? What the hell? In Taichu territory, there was some chaos. After all, it was the Taichu origin chaos universe, the mother and center of all Taichu universes. Its sudden disappearance naturally caused a huge panic. No one knew what was going on. Even the cultivators in the primordial origins chaotic universe were dumbfounded. After the transformation of the Taichu ended, many practitioners tried to leave the Taichu origin chaos universe to explore the outside world. However, they found that all the instruments and radars had failed, and the surrounding area had changed. The energy in Hongmeng had also changed. They could not even enter the Hongmeng world. The Taichu had transmigrated. At this moment, a patch of blue suddenly appeared in the sky. It was as if the ocean had turned upside down in the sky. Dots of light and stars shone brightly, covering the entire sky of the Taichu origin chaos universe. In an instant, it caused a commotion. Wow, what is that? Is it a natural disaster or a catastrophe? Was the previous change really a precursor? No, this energy is very calm and gentle. It doesn't look like the violence and fierceness of a disaster at all. Instead, it looks like a rainbow after a storm. You think too much. We can't even enter the Hongmeng world now. There must be a problem. Yes, something big must have happened in the Taichu, but we are all in the dark. We don't know anything. All the cultivators had solemn expressions. This was related to the Taichu origin chaos universe, their own existence and future. How could they not be worried? At this moment, a gentle and calm voice rang out in the sky of the origin chaos universe, like the ravings of heaven. Hello, everyone. I am Lin Feng. Taichu Lin Feng. There was not much self-introduction, but the name Lin Feng was known by everyone in the Taichu. Countless newborn Taichu babies were named with this name, hoping that their future would be limitless. In the Hongmeng Sea, Lin Feng was famous. In the Taichu, Lin Feng was the idol of all the practitioners. He was the symbol of invincibility. It was Lin Feng. All of a sudden, all the cultivators were in high spirits. They were extremely excited. For them, Lin Feng was there to make them feel at ease. Sorry to disturb everyone. I will make a long story short. I think everyone has noticed that the Taichu is different. To be honest, it is because I have taken over the Taichu's will of the heavens. Now, the Taichu has merged with my internal universe and no longer exists in the Hongmeng Sea. Boom! No matter how calm Lin Feng's voice was, it could not hide the huge amount of information. Every single cultivator was dumbfounded and overwhelmed with shock. Did they hear it wrong? Lin Feng had taken over the Taichu's will of the heavens. The Taichu was not in the Hongmeng Sea. It was obvious that Lin Feng had moved it into his internal universe. This was too frightening. In other words, they were now in Lin Feng's internal universe. Life and death were in Lin Feng's hands. Everyone, don't worry. I have no evil intentions. You can still live freely in the Taichu's chaotic universe. Nothing will change. Of course, you can also choose to leave. Above you is my strongest Hongmeng source, the Blue Frost Fairy Dust Lake. It connects my internal universe to the Hongmeng Sea's Taichu realm. You only need to pass through the Blue Frost Fairy Dust Lake to leave. However, there is one thing I want to remind everyone. Currently, The Hongmeng Sea is facing a calamity, and it is unknown whether it will be a blessing or a curse. Experts led by Fan Zhu are resisting strong enemies in the dimensional passage. Once they lose this battle, the Hongmeng Sea will completely fall. I cannot guarantee that my internal universe will be safe, but at least for now, I think it will be safer than the Hongmeng Sea. Everyone can take their time to think about it. In the next 100 eras, I will open the passage 3 times. Whether you can leave or enter, and whether you're willing to settle in the new Taichu's chaotic universe, is up to you. Thank you. Lin Feng's voice suddenly fell, but the shock it caused could not be calmed down for a long time. It was extremely shocking. Chapter 3243. A forced melon was not sweet. Lin Feng certainly hoped that the Taichu would not change, but some things had to be decided by the cultivators themselves. Every cultivator had their own judgment and ideas, so there was no need to force them. For Lin Feng, even if all the Taichu cultivators left, it would not have any impact on his strength. Lin Feng's life level was stronger than the Taichu's origin chaos universe. There were a large number of cultivators in the Milky Way. As long as there was enough time and energy, more and more powerful cultivators would be born, and new sub-universes would slowly appear. Now, it was like traveling through the Taichu's origin chaos universe and returning to the beginning of the Hongmeng Sea. However, the life energy was stronger than back then, and it had great potential for development and transformation. Lin Feng's future was much brighter than the Hongmeng Sea. Now, how should we choose? Is Lin Feng telling the truth? Is there really a catastrophe in Hongmeng Sea? I believe in Senior Lin Feng. He has no need to lie to us. We are not good for him in his internal universe, so he doesn't need to lie to us. Is there even a need to ask? Who is Senior Lin Feng? How could he do such a thing? But even if Lin Feng is telling the truth, we are no longer in the Hongmeng Sea. Wouldn't it be weird to live in Lin Feng's internal universe? I don't think it's different. Anyway, we are in the Taichu's origin chaos universe. Don't you think the Taichu's energy is stronger than before, and its life energy is more vigorous? Now that you mention it, it seems to be the case. Lin Feng's words caused an uproar in the Taichu. To leave or to stay was undoubtedly a big problem. Leave? After leaving Lin Feng's internal universe, leaving the Taichu Origin's chaotic universe, and returning to the Hongmeng Sea, where would they go? They were born in the Taichu's Origin Chaos universe and had cultivated there for a long time. But now, they had to leave. He felt like he had nowhere to go. Lin Feng had said that once he left, he would not be able to return. The cultivators also knew that this was Lin Feng's internal universe, after all. It was impossible for them to come and go as they pleased. Lin Feng had allowed them to leave, which was already very good of him. If Lin Feng wanted to, he could easily wipe them out. I think there's no need for everyone to be anxious. Mista can live for a while and see. That's right. Don't we have 3 chances to open the passageway in the next 100 eras? We don't have to leave the first time. In any case, I believe in Senior Lin Feng. Let's stay here for a while. Well, I think so too. It's stupid to make a rash decision. The Taichu is indeed a little different now. Maybe this is an opportunity for us. If they want to leave, let them go. I'm a loyal fan of Senior Lin Feng. I'm so happy to be able to stay in Senior Lin Feng's internal universe. If they wanted to leave, they couldn't stay. If they wanted to stay, they didn't have to stay. They would stay. Soon, figures broke through the sky and left. The blue frost fairy dust, lakes shone brightly. Countless cultivators left one after another. This lasted for quite a long time. Lin Feng naturally let them go. Cultivators appeared in the Taichu's internal universe one after another. It felt like a lifetime had passed. But when they came out, they found that the Hongmeng Sea had changed. The Taichu's origin chaos universe was no longer there. Where did they go? The cultivators were at a loss for a moment. They thought about it. What was the difference between staying in Lin Feng's internal universe and staying in the Hongmeng Sea? Most of the cultivators chose to wait and see. There were 3 chances to open the passageway, so there was indeed no need to leave the first time. The catastrophe in the Hongmeng Sea that Lin Feng had mentioned was also true. Many higher-ups of the 5 major forces in the Taichu's origin chaos universe had a certain understanding of this. The Hongmeng Sea was not safe. The internal universe might not be safe either. But at least, even if Lin Feng died, the internal universe wouldn't be destroyed so quickly. At most, the energy would slowly dissipate over time. But once the catastrophe befell the Hongmeng Sea, it would really be destroyed. The number of cultivators who left went from a large number to a small number, and then to a negligible number. Then, Lin Feng withdrew the Blue Frost Immortal Dust Lake and closed the passageway. What he said was from the bottom of his heart. Leaving the Taichu Sea now wasn't a wise decision. Although Lin Feng was confident in dealing with the 9 Hells monarchs of the Netherkill clan, he was still powerless against the 3 strongest 9 Hells monarchs. At least, he couldn't do it now. After all, he had just broken through to become a mighty. Now, I should be able to try to climb the last level of the Hongmeng Dual Polarity Tower. Lin Feng had failed to challenge the 21st level of the Mengji Tower because his attainments in the Tao of Meng were not deep enough. But now that the Hongmeng dimensional body had transformed to the 2nd stage, the Hongmeng Viral had greatly improved. Lin Feng had already surpassed his limits in the Tao of Meng. He was strong enough to challenge the 21st level of the Mengji Tower. Including the Tao of Meng, Lin Feng had also created the origin of Meng, which had reached the sublimit. Ascending to the 19th level was a piece of cake. The Hongmeng Dual Polarity Tower was very mysterious and powerful. Its core resonated with the Viral, as if it was hiding a secret. Lin Feng had a feeling that as long as he ascended to the 21st level of the Hongmeng Dual Polarity Tower, he would very likely come into contact with the secret. Enter the Hongmeng world. Lin Feng wasn't very interested in the investiture of the God Challenge. Although he could break the record again and again, he was still far from reaching the limits of a mighty. There was no need to challenge it so early. Moreover, he wasn't lacking any treasures now. Ascend the Hongmeng Dual Polarity Tower. Lin Feng stood below the Hongmeng Dual Polarity Tower and raised his head to look at the towering Hongmeng Dual Polarity Tower. He was astonished. When he left, it was still the normal Dual Polarity Tower, but now it had completely changed. A faint luster enveloped it, a strange energy spread out, and an indescribable pressure spread out. On the 21st level of the Hongmeng Dual Polarity Tower, half of it was lit up like a lamp. Hongji Pagoda. Lin Feng knew which half of the Hongmeng Dual Polarity Tower was lit up. A cultivator had ascended to the 21st level of the Hongji Pagoda. It's him. There was almost no second thought. Lin Feng was keenly aware of who could do it. Besides that elusive and mysterious existence, who else in the primordial chaos sea could challenge the 21st level of the Hongji Pagoda? Who else had reached the limits of the path of Hongji? Many of the 5 world lords had reached the sublimits of the path of Hongji, but none of them had reached the limits. I didn't expect him to be one step ahead. Lin Feng smiled, but his eyes were filled with fighting spirit. He wanted to challenge it even more. However, even if Gu Huang didn't ascend to the 21st level of the Hongji Pagoda, Lin Feng wouldn't be able to do it. He was confident that he could ascend to the 19th level of the Hongji Pagoda. The 20th level was hard to say, and the 21st level was completely impossible. However, the 21st level of the Mengji Pagoda was completely possible. Then let me light up the remaining half of the 21st level. Lin Feng stepped onto the Mengji Pagoda. Chapter 3244. I'm here again. Lin Feng stepped onto the 21st level of the Taichu Tower once again. After cultivating for several eras within the Taichu realm, he had long been able to continue challenging the tower. The current Lin Feng was no longer the same as before. However, the Tower Guardian of the 21st level would not change. It was still the same Tower Guardian with a pure Hongmeng Yuan body. Like a clump of light, it appeared both real and illusory. It could be said that it had completely suppressed Lin Feng in his first challenge. Although Lin Feng's Hongmeng dimensional body was very powerful, it was still only at the first stage. Compared to the Tower Guardian's Hongmeng Yuan body, it was still slightly inferior. Bang! This time, Lin Feng's strength was no longer inferior to the Tower Guardians. Although the Hongmeng dimensional body was only at the second stage, its energy intensity was already comparable to the peak of Hongmeng Yuan body. Furthermore, Viral was still able to erupt with tyrannical strength and dominance, suppressing the Tower Guardian. With a slightly weaker energy intensity, Viral was like a needle, able to pierce through the opponent's defenses. With their energy intensity on par, Viral was like a general on the battlefield, taking the lead. With the advantage in energy intensity, Viral was able to sweep through everything in its path. At this moment, Viral, who was taking the lead, was crazily attacking. Although the Tower Guardian's defenses were very strong, even stronger than Lin Feng, who was wearing the Lord of the World set, Viral's ability to break through defenses wasn't just for show. That was the highest level of energy within the dimensional space. Bang! 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 The Tower Guardian retreated as he fought. However, he wasn't stupid. Since he couldn't face Lin Feng head-on, he changed to a guerrilla warfare. Although Lin Feng's body was stronger than his, there was a limit to it. It wasn't an overwhelming advantage. Furthermore, Lin Feng's control over his body was still immature. It seemed as though this would turn into a protracted battle. However, that was just wishful thinking on the part of the Tower Guardian. At the instant the Tower Guardian retreated, Lin Feng's eyes flashed with brilliance. A massive amount of energy gushed out from his body, condensing into one as a pure spiritual force instantly erupted. Origin source. Lin Feng had truly relied on his own comprehension in the Hongmeng Sea to create the Source Ultimate technique. An extreme power of the soul appeared. Unlike physical attacks, which relied more on one's realm, soul attacks relied more on one's realm. Soul attacks also relied on one's own soul and energy. In Mengji Tower, it could unleash its full power. Boom! The Pagoda Guardian's body violently trembled. His soul defense was instantly shaken, and his inner universe was invaded by Viral. Although Lin Feng's soul attack hadn't killed him, the absolute suppression of strength had greatly reduced his combat strength. In an instant, the Battle Saber Snow Jewel was unsheathed. The spiritual shock attack was a supplementary attack. The crushing power of the physical body was the key. Taichu Minamoto. Hongmeng Viral erupted at this moment. Compared to the small amount of Hongmeng Viral condensed by the spiritual shock, Lin Feng's saber technique condensed more and stronger Hongmeng Viral and dealt a fatal blow to the injured Pagoda Guardian. The light shattered, turning into countless light spots that gathered in front of Lin Feng. It was a light pagoda condensed from pure Hongmeng elemental energy. It was extremely similar to Lin Feng's own Hongmeng Viral. The white pagoda was like a miniature model of Hongmeng's twin towers. Lin Feng stretched out his hand and gently lifted it. He could feel the majestic power contained within. At the core of the pagoda, dense engravings curled around it, explaining the ultimate mystery of Hongmeng. The strongest Hongmeng Minamoto. Lin Feng had already obtained the strongest Hongmeng Minamoto before, so he naturally knew the strength of this treasure. It was undoubtedly the strongest Hongmeng Minamoto. It was on the same level as his blue Frost Fairy Dust Lake. Offensive type, sealing type, or defensive type? Lin Feng still wasn't clear about the function of this mini white light tower. He couldn't tell from its appearance alone. Tower-type treasures themselves had many possible functions. There were many offensive, defensive, control, and even cultivation and special types. Lin Feng put away the white pagoda. He didn't plan to refine it for the time being. After defeating the 21st floor guardian, the passage to the 21st floor of Hongmeng Tower had been opened. His heart leaped with joy. It seemed to resonate with the twin towers of Hongmeng. Lin Feng stepped into the mysterious highest floor of the twin towers of Hongmeng. His heart was filled with anticipation. What would be on the highest floor of the Hongmeng Twin Towers? In the Hongmeng Twin Towers area, the four-dimensional passageways were currently facing the crazy attacks of the Minamoto clan. Not only the first-dimensional passageway, but also the second, third, and fourth-dimensional passageways were all in fierce battles. The most dangerous ones were the third and fourth-dimensional passageways. After Lin Feng left the third-dimensional passageway, the weight of Viral increased. The attacks led by the sword shadows became stronger and stronger. The Minamoto clan was already in a precarious situation, and the Minamoto clan had the upper hand. Needless to say, the fourth-dimensional passageway was even more so. The power of the Tai Chi Origin Chaotic Universe was the weakest among the 5 Origin Chaotic Universes. Dao Wu Ji relied on the infinite Tai Chi formation to barely resist. However, the weight of Viral in the fourth-dimensional passageway increased too quickly. Now, it had completely surpassed the third-dimensional passageway. This was because the Nine Hells King who built the fourth-dimensional passageway was one of the 3 strongest world lords of the Minamoto clan. Invincible. Even if he didn't use breaking extremity, his strength was comparable to the strongest world lord of the Hongmeng Sea. I'm going to win. Self-improvement. Invincible's overbearing fists bombarded Dao Wu Ji's infinite Tai Chi formation like thunder. The Minamoto clan's Hell Lords behind him were almost negligible. He alone was enough to defeat an army of 10,000. Although Invincible was the last to build the dimensional passageway, he had the most advantage in the current situation of the 4-dimensional passageways. Invincible and Invincible from the first-dimensional passageway were competing. Both of them were equal in strength and were the strongest world lords. This time, the attack on the Hongmeng Sea was to see who would be the first to enter the Hongmeng Sea and take the lead. Although the first-dimensional passageway was led by Invincible and had the help of another Nine Hells King, the situation was the most stable among the 4-dimensional passageways because of the strength of the Grand Change Origin Chaotic Universe and the existence of the Chaos Dowlord. In the second-dimensional passageway, the Minamoto clan's army, led by the Bitter Spring Hell King, also had a great advantage. They forced the Grand Essence Chaotic Universe's experts to retreat step by step. They didn't crush them, but Viral's weight had increased rapidly over the past 100 years. Just like the fourth-dimensional passageway, the third-dimensional passageway was in danger. The strength of Blade Light and Sword Shadow wasn't any weaker than Bittersweet. But the overall strength of the Absolute Beginning Origin Chaotic Universe was weaker than the Grand Essence Chaotic Universe. Since Lin Feng left, Absolute Beginning had been at a disadvantage. Even the powerhouses led by Ancestor Fan were injured. Every time they defended, Taichu would be injured or killed. The accumulation of injuries caused Taichu's disadvantage to become greater and greater. Until now, the simultaneous war between the 4-dimensional passageways had caught the Hongmeng Sea by surprise. They tried their best to defend, but they couldn't attend to one thing and lose sight of another. The Minamoto clan, who had gained the upper hand step by step, finally reaped the fruits of victory. Chapter 32:45. Mengji Tower, 21st level. Whoosh, a light flashed, and a figure appeared. It was Lin Feng with a calm expression. He defeated the Tower Guardian and entered the top level of Mengji Tower. Lin Feng didn't feel too happy because everything was within his expectations. After becoming a powerful being and entering the second stage of the Hongmeng dimensional physique, Lin Feng's attainments in the Tao of Concealment had already exceeded the limits of the Hongmeng Sea. There was no suspense in reaching the top of Mengji Tower. The moment he reached the top, Lin Feng felt the presence of an extremely powerful aura. He turned his gaze to the left and saw an invisible barrier like a wall of stars. On the other side of the barrier, there seemed to be a transcendent existence that made his blood boil. It's him. Lin Feng's gaze landed on the barrier. The powerful aura on the other side seemed to have also sensed the abnormality here. The two auras clashed on the top level of Hongmeng's dual polarity tower, and there was a faint smell of gunpowder. One was the person who reached the top of Hongji Tower. The other was the person who reached the top of Mengji Tower. So the top of Hongmeng's dual polarity tower is connected. Although this was the case, Lin Feng obviously couldn't enter the other side, and neither could Gu Huang. The auras dissipated upon contact. Lin Feng didn't have much contact with Gu Huang. They weren't familiar with each other, and there wasn't much hostility between them. Everyone was well. The 21st level. Is there nothing? Lin Feng carefully observed, the 21st level of Mengji Tower. The light was resplendent, and there seemed to be stars on the tower that contained boundless energy. It was slightly different from what he had expected. Soon, Lin Feng felt relieved. After all, this wasn't the real Hongmeng's dual polarity tower, but a miniature version of the Hongmeng world. Even if there was a connection, it would be through the miniature version and the real Hongmeng dual polarity tower. Hence, the connection would be weaker. Lin Feng had seen the light and energy release from the 21st floor of Mengji Tower, so he was no stranger to it. Although the energy here was abnormally dense and was 1,000 times purer than the energy in the Hongmeng Sea, especially in the tower, the efficiency of absorbing and cultivating would be extremely high. However, to Lin Feng, who was absorbing the energy in the dimensional space, he didn't feel anything. The effect was only slightly better than the absorption from the dimensional space. He left. Lin Feng sensed that the energy on the other side of Hongmeng's dual polarity tower had disappeared. It was clear that Gu Huang had left, but this had nothing to do with him. He didn't have much interaction with Gu Huang, especially since he had sealed off the grand beginning Origin's chaotic universe. There were even fewer interactions. Lin Feng continued to explore the secrets of the top floor of Mengji Tower. He directly scanned the place with his will. Other than the pure and majestic energy, he soon made a new discovery. Right at the top of the tower, there were intricate and complicated vein patterns that were somewhat similar to the vein patterns outside the real Hongmeng dual polarity tower. However, Lin Feng didn't know what secrets were hidden in these complicated vein patterns. Only half of the complex vein patterns could be seen. The other half was on the other side of the barrier where the 21st floor of Mengji Tower was. So, in order to know all the secrets of Hongmeng's dual polarity tower, I have to ascend both the 21st floor of Mengji Tower at the same time? Lin Feng pondered. After wandering around Mengji Tower for a long time, he didn't find any other directions. The vein patterns at the top of the tower were the most striking. However, even if there was nothing on the 21st floor of Mengji Tower, the reward for ascending to the 21st floor was already quite impressive. The strongest Hongmeng source item. This was a top-notch treasure that could only be obtained by sweeping through the Yuan venerates on the investiture of the gods. Although it wasn't like the hidden reward, where there was a choice of 3, it was still much better than the Hongmeng source item. Lin Feng already knew how powerful the strongest Hongmeng source item was after refining the Blue Frost Immortal Dust Lake. Moreover, this white light pagoda was like a miniature version of the primordial bipolarist pagoda. Other than being the strongest primordial origin item, it was very likely that it contained some of the primordial bipolarist pagoda secrets. Okay, let's continue to challenge Mengji Tower. Lin Feng also knew that he couldn't ascend to the 21st floor of Mengji Tower, but he also wanted to know how far he was from the 21st floor. Lin Feng didn't linger on the 21st floor's energy and quickly descended. Although he had only been delayed for a short while, Gu Huang's figure had already disappeared. Lin Feng remained calm. If they really met, they would meet sooner or later. If Gu Huang didn't want to meet, it would be meaningless even if he blocked him. Whether they met or not, it was up to fate. Mengji Tower, 19th floor. At the threshold of the strongest world lord, the path of Hongmeng's cultivation had reached the sublimit. Although Lin Feng's other aspects of the path of Hongmeng were average, he still far surpassed the sublimit. His self-created soul attack secret technique had reached the source level. It wasn't like the saber technique, Tai Chi source. The comprehension of the source level didn't originate from the Hongmeng Sea. The comprehension of the source came from the possession. It was a true Hongmeng Sea level origin level. Without any effort, Lin Feng ascended to the 19th floor. However, the 20th floor's guardian gave Lin Feng the cold shoulder. In order to ascend to the 20th floor, one's path of Hongmeng's cultivation had to reach the limit like the Hongmeng body. There were 3 ways to reach the limit of the path of Hongmeng. One had to reach the peak of Hongmeng's laws, or comprehend all 7 types of Hongmeng's laws, or create a secret technique that surpassed the source level. It was very difficult. No matter which method it was, it required many years of accumulation. It wasn't just talent. Lin Feng's path of Hongming's cultivation was at the sublimit. Moreover, he had just stepped into the sublimit. Against the 20th floor's guardian, his path of Hongming's cultivation had almost reached the limit. It was very difficult to defeat it. However, it wasn't the 21st floor's guardian. Even if the 20th floor's guardian's cultivation had reached the limit, it was still at the sublimit. To be precise, it was still at the same level as Lin Feng. In a Hongming Ji tower, the might of the path of Hongming was indeed reduced by 90%. However, viral suppression didn't change. The path of Hongming still had about 10% of its power left. How strong was Lin Feng's path of Hongming? It exceeded the limit. In the second stage of the Hongming dimensional body, the soul attack secret technique was half path of Hongming and half path of Hongming. Although Lin Feng's path of Hongming was slightly inferior, he completely suppressed his opponent in other aspects. In the end, it was difficult for him to win this battle. Ascending to the 20th floor of the Hongming Ji Tower. Phew! Lin Feng sighed. Although he wanted to continue trying, he knew that this was his limit. Unless his path of Hongming's cultivation reached the limit, there was no chance of him succeeding. Senior Gu Huang is indeed powerful. Lin Feng had been able to ascend to the top of the Hongming Ji Tower because of some fortuitous encounters. However, the Hongming Ji Tower required one's own comprehension. The comprehension of the Hongming's laws had to be done step by step. It didn't require fortuitous encounters. To be able to quell the calamity of Genesis Supreme with his own strength was enough to show Gu Huang's strength. It's about time. I should go to the dimensional passage to take a look. I wonder how it is over there.